All right, a very good morning, ladies and gentlemen, from the flight deck. Welcome back to another live stream here on Twitch with Captain Nabs. And as you can see, we have a new airplane in the hangar. This is not the Airbus today. This, as you can tell from that distinctive nose, the rounded bottoms of the engines there, or the flattened bottoms of the engines, I should say. This, my friends, is PMDG's 737-700. In the American Airlines paint scheme, and today we're going to be using that for our flight in a pilot's life. That's right, we finally got PMDG 737 in Microsoft Flight Simulator, and we are going to take it up for a ride today. So today's flight is not too bad, not the long slog we did last time. Today we're going from Los Angeles all the way over back to our hub and our home base for this season anyways, of DFW, Dallas-Fort Worth. It's about a 2.5–3 hour flight, so it's not exactly a short flight, but it's not nearly as long as some of the past flights that I've done. So we should be able to get this in a reasonable amount of time. It's definitely shorter than last time. Last time was a bit of a long haul, with a little bit of a slog just to get it done. Today we can take a little bit more time to enjoy. All right, so where am I? Nope, not that one. That one right there. Hello. Hey everybody, welcome aboard, yeah, as you can see, we've got this PMDG 737 parked right in front of us here. She's just a thing of beauty to behold. She really truly is. Let's see if I could just do a little bit of manipulating of my drone camera here, just to kind of show you again how nice this thing is here, because it really is quite my drone camera is not the smoothest, but it does kind of give you an idea of just how good this airplane looks. It does have the flight crew in there when you're doing external views, so you can see all of that. The deckling is fantastic. Now this is not an included, and it's funny that the lights are on when the power's off. This is not an included livery. This is one that I downloaded off of flightsim.to. They didn't come with an American livery, and part of the reason is that this airplane technically doesn't exist. This is the 737-700. So this is not the 800 series, not the 900. This is the 700. The American Airlines never owned a 737-700. They owned a lot of the 800, and this is actually painted, and it actually has the same tail number as one of the 800 series. So it's not 100% realistic, but I'll say this as well, that American does not own any A320 Neos, and yet I was flying the A320 Neo. So sometimes with Flight Simulator, you've got to take a little bit of artistic license, if you will. You've got to accept that it's not going to always be... You're not always going to be able to get exactly the airplane you're looking for, but in terms of operating the 700 is pretty much the same as operating the 800, the 900. One of the big differences is that as you get the bigger ones, you have dual overwing exits, because the airplane is a little bit bigger, a little bit longer, but it essentially from the inside it's going to operate almost exactly the same way, and this is why PMDG can release 4 versions in very quick succession. The 6, 7, 8, and 900 are all very similar. There are a few minor systems differences, especially as you get to the 800, 900, just because it's a little bit bigger, but for the most part the aircraft is almost identical except for the size of the wings and the fuselage, the actual passenger carrying capacity. But from a systems perspective, these airplanes are almost exactly the same. So it is a really nice airplane. PMDG has done just a fantastic job here. The shine on the aircraft, on the metal parts, and even the dirty parts of the engine, everything looks really good. I have yet to find too many flaws. If you get zoomed into a few things, you will find a few little flaws here. Some of the things like some of the lights here are a little bit lower detail than you'd like, but you have to get really far zoomed in to really see it. You have to be really up close, and even then, like some of these things like the flap tracks, like you can see there are texturing to it, but as they pointed out, like PMDG, and you can even go inside, the textures for this entire aircraft, for the external and internal and everything, the textures for just the flight deck alone in this version are greater than the total amount of textures that were in the P3D version for the entire aircraft. So you can see, like, when you get up close, like these are actually flat textures. They're not actually wheels drawn down here, but the moment you step like 5 steps away, you just get this impression that there's a galley back there. It really is good. I mean, at the end of the day, there always will be a compromise between detail and performance. there is only there's only so much you can do as a developer. I mean, you could literally model each and every nut and bolt in this aircraft as an actual nut and bolt, as an actual separate object, but your performance would be absolutely abysmal. Pilots are in there, and then suddenly they disappear when I actually get in close. But it's funny, even in Microsoft Flight Simulator, the dynamic sounds between being in and out of the terminal. You can hear the sound. There's an aircraft somewhere taxiing nearby. You can hear it when you're outside, but if you get in the flight deck, the sound goes away. It's pretty sudden, but it's gone. Anyways, it's a really beautiful airplane. As you guys may have seen last week, I've taken it up for a bunch of flights now, but I took it up for my first flight on stream last week, and I thought it was overall really well done. Is it perfect? No. Have I found glitches in it? Absolutely, I have. And I think nobody was expecting perfection on day one from PMDG. We are expecting high quality, but at the end of the day, this is a new platform. You know, their beta testing team is relatively limited. When you release a product into the wide community, there's going to be people with different setups, different configurations that are going to have that are going to expose different bugs and glitches and problems with your aircraft. So PMDG considers that the release period of all these aircraft from now until the 900 releases to be kind of an early access period where the aircraft's not perfect. It's more than good enough for you guys to go and play with it and try and fly it. If you find bugs, please report them. They'll push updates probably relatively regularly. Pardon me, for the first little while, and then hopefully by the time the 900 releases, they'll have a fairly stable platform overall for all of the aircraft. So I have found a few glitches. I did suffer from a PFD clipping glitch. There's quite a few glitches I found, but overall, it's I think it's a pretty nice looking airplane. It looks really good. Everything is functional the way you would expect it to be, which is great. Like, that's one thing that you almost don't even have to. You don't even have to wonder about that with PMDG. You just assume that everything in the aircraft is functional. Every switch functions. The FMC is fully functional in every way. You just assume everything functions. It doesn't always perfect, but you assume it functions. So I'm not. I'll put this over here. I'm not. I don't even have to hesitate about whether or not to push a button and wonder if it works, because with PMDG, you know they've gone to the depth of every system does exactly what it's supposed to do. So, anywho, we'll have more time to talk about it as we get underway, but I guess we should probably get underway for our flight today. And let's see here. I'm just going to hop in the flight deck here. So I was playing with it. I took away the jetway. I'm not sure if I can actually request the jetway through this. So one thing I have found that has been a bit of an issue is that Pushback Express does not seem to like this aircraft. It goes through most of the motions, but I don't know if it's the parking brake doesn't trigger properly or something. But for some reason, it does not like to complete a push with this aircraft. So I'm going to have to resort to either to Pushback Helper or use the internal pushback software that's built into the PMDG. So for now, I'm just going to go ahead and call the jetway, and hopefully that'll work. Ah, that is working. External views here, and that is working. Thinking about it. Okay, perfect. So that is working. So we're getting the jetway on. We can open the doors. And I'm so used to having FS2 crew to do a bunch of stuff for me here that it's getting very... I'm just not used to this. And what we can do is we can request our passenger load and our cargo load. Oops. So previous, where's our passenger load? Oh, there it is, right there underneath the jetway. So it even tells you how many you've got, and you can go ahead and pop that in there. And it doesn't really matter because you won't see anybody. And then cargo, you can request the forward loader, the aft loader. You can request them to load the cargo. And it even tells you what the number is that's currently in the FMS here. So on the payload page, it tells you what the numbers are there. And we'll request the baggage cards as well. So one at a time, they're going to arrive as well. There's baggage loader number 1. Baggage loader number 2 spawned. One at a time, they'll arrive. They should open the doors automatically, I believe. I've been playing with this. I haven't always noticed everything that's happened in order, but most of the stuff seems to work quite well, so you can do most of this stuff. Squibbly, it's too bad you can't fly with us today, but I hope you're paying attention, and I hope you're going to fast forward or rewatch this part of the video to help you get up to speed in the 737, because there's a lot of steps, but it really is not that hard once you get down to it. So much of this aircraft, it's designed around a good, the SOPs are designed around a good flow that you don't have to do too much. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my normal procedures list just to make sure I have everything. But first of all, electrical power up checklist. So there's a supplementary checklist if you get to the aircraft and it's fully unpowered. And why? Hold on one second here. Why is my track IR not working now? It was working a second ago. Okay, give me 1 second, guys. We're just going to try and fix this. Okay. Can't quite see the slider at the bottom of the screen, but it's about here, so it's almost done. One thing I will say about this aircraft, it actually loads quite quickly after the first time. The first time took forever. Took a good solid 10 minutes for it to load the first time, but every subsequent load, 60 seconds, 90 seconds at the most, once you get into the sim itself. Once you get to the main menu and you select the aircraft, hit fly, and it literally takes 60 seconds, so it's not that bad. A little hazy this morning now. Couple second pause when you first kind of fire it up there, but there we go. Now we've got track IR working. Beautiful. Now we got to go back and we got to restart from where we were before. So let's just get some FS actions going here. Ground services. Let's request that ground power. Oops. So requesting the ground power. Got to change this to a jet bridge format. 115 passengers. It should have already saved our data from before. Let's just see payload. Nope, it did not save. Nope, it did not save our payload from before. Anywho, it's gonna be pretty close, anyways, because I'd already taken that payload and used it in SimBrief. So yeah, that's annoying. But what are you gonna do? All right, so I was going to show you how all this stuff loads. What I'm going to do actually is I'm just going to make sure we load the fuel here, because that's something we definitely need. And the fuel will load nice and slowly, which is kind of fun and realistic. So let's just get this going here. All right, just looking at my other screen here. Fuel load, fuel load. 24,000 pounds to get from KLAX-KDFW, 24.5. So if we go to page 4, no, page, where is it? Page 2, there it is. Request fuel truck, and then you can put in, and this is now in weight unit in pounds, please and thank you. All right, and go back to this. Oh my gosh, this is, I swear it's not normally this hard to set this up, but anywho. All right, so our target is, we're going to say 25,000 pounds. And once the fuel truck actually gets here, and he is here, he's just attaching his hoses. Takes him a couple seconds to get the hose attached. And once he actually gets the hose attached, then you can actually click start, and it will slowly bring the fuel level up. So while we're doing this, let's actually go to what I was going to do now, which is let's get started here. So we have a fully cold and dark airplane. So we're going to do the electrical power up supplementary checklist here from my quick and dirty checklist file here. So batteries are right here in the middle, so make sure the battery is in auto. Make sure the standby power is also in auto, which is guard closed, guard closed. Alternate flaps, also guard closed. Windshield wiper selectors, park. Electric hydraulic pumps need to be off. Landing gear lever is down. And the ground power switch on. So if we're not running the APU, we use the ground power switch. Turn that on, and that gets us all of our electrical power in the aircraft. It's a little bit dark and dim this morning, but in Los Angeles, but it's not too bad. And that is the start. That is the electrical power-up checklist. If you didn't have ground power, you could start the APU at this point. And then we also have a preliminary pre-flight, so this just sort of gets the aircraft very initially ready to start boarding passengers and get our flight up and running here. So preliminary pre-flight, the first thing we got to do is come up way up here to the top, make sure that our IRSs are in nav mode, so that they are aligning. Voice recorder switch. So our cockpit switch, voice recorders over here. You can test it just by opening the guard and throwing that switch, and that turns it on, even though the aircraft should not be recording. Digital data yet, so that just checks the recorder there. Verify oxygen, hydraulics, and PSU. So crew oxygen is up here on the top. You can see we're at about 1600 psi, so that's fine. In a second, we're going to have our MFDs come up here, or our engine display anyways, and then we can check our oil and fuel level. We'll just check while we're up here, make sure our PSEU light is extinguished. One of these is the PSEU, one of these is the GPS light. And the service interphone switch is off. Engine panel, so up here is all the engine FADEC control panel. Make sure all the lights are extinguished. The EECs should be on. The electronic engine controls should be on. So if anything malfunctions with our FADECs, we can shut them down up there. We almost never need to use that panel. Engine panel, passenger oxygen switch, guard closed. So passenger oxygen, make sure the guard is closed in the normal position. Landing gear lights, so up here are our backup landing gear lights. These are our normal landing gear lights down here. These are the backups with a whole separate set of sensors, so if these ones don't work for any reason, we can come up here and check these if they're working, so they are all green. Flight recorder switch is closed, and manual gear extension access door is down here. It's really awkward to try and look at with track IR, but there it is, so there's the gear extensions. We'll close that, and parking brake as needed, so we'll set that. Alright, that is the preliminary pre-flight. We're now ready to actually start boarding passengers if we wanted to. We can also start that fuel flowing. Ground services page 2. Oh, that's exactly how much fuel we have on board, so there we go. We have exactly the right number anyway, so fuel truck can go away. Bye. Alright, the other thing we need to check was just the engine oil level. It's good. And the hydraulic fluid level, both good, 100%, 90%, good. All right, so that's it. Preliminary pre-flight checklist is complete. Let's just get that jet bridge over here again. I did it once already, and yeah, it didn't like me. So let's go ahead and let's go ahead and get that moving over here. And then we can open that door. Is that door open? No. So there's the cargo doors opening, but we're going to get the... shouldn't open it until the jet bridge is on. I'm starting to feel just a little bit frustrated just because I had to restart the sim, and now I want to get moving just a little bit quicker, so just bear with me here. And here comes FSU IPC. It's me in the 737, it is. And I had all this stuff ready to go, and then I had to shut the sim down. So now I got to start it all up again, import from sim brief. We're already going to be late due to a technical problem. We're supposed to leave now. And now we're going to be late, so be it.
I come crew, we're ready to get going now, so as soon as you're ready, you can open the doors.
Boarding there.
Thank you.
Alright.
No problem.
So now we basically got everything ready to go. We're gonna pre-flight the CDU here. So we'll zoom right in on that. And one of the really nice things that I found out pretty much right away, the day that the 737 released, or just the day after, I didn't have it set up for my live stream when it released, but the day after it released, I found out that AviaWorks does have a working CDU on a tablet for the 737 NG here. So, or not the NG, but the the 737 NG. But for the PMDG Microsoft Flight Simulator, you can use your tablet as a control for your CDU. So you can go menu, FMC, and I just like it. I just find my right arm gets so sore from clicking things constantly in this airplane that I really, really, really cannot overemphasize how useful I think this is. I think this is probably the best $10 you'll ever spend. If you're at all into simming and enjoying any of these aircraft, I guess it's €10, so it's a little bit more than $10, but whatever. I think this is one of the best investments you'll make if you're at all into airline flying. Having the CDU available on a tablet and having it nearby, not only do you not have to look down to use it because you can just in the sim because you can just look over at your tablet wherever you have it perched, but just to take that clicking strain off of you. Now that being said, I'm going to go ahead and just set this up with the mouse just so you guys can follow along and see what we're doing here. So we've got the ident. Happy, today's May 19th, so happy nav data day, everybody. I hope you updated your nav data this morning or before you start up your sim. Position init. Page 2 is where we can grab the current GPS coordinates, which we expect will be pretty accurate to initialize our IRS position. And then one of the nice things about the Boeing FMC is that pretty much if you use the lower right key, it almost always leads you to the next place you need to go. So even when we were on this ident page here, that first comes up when you boot up the FMC, position init, great. Once you've got the position initialized, route. All right, let's start setting that up. So pretty much whatever's in the right-hand bottom right corner here is almost always the next place you need to go when you're following the proper FMS flow. So I find that's a very useful. If you ever feel like you're getting lost in this airplane, that's a great way to follow along. KLAX to KDFW. Now, for those of you, squibbly, I'm looking in your general direction, that are Airbus pilots, the 737 FMC is quite a bit different, but a lot of the same basic functions. In this case, you don't need the initialization page to set up your route. You go straight to the route page, is where you set up your route, and there's your flight number. The only thing that it doesn't really lead you into when you're doing this is your departures and arrivals. So you can go to the next page and start programming your route, but usually you want to start with your departures. So hit the departure arrival button, departure out of KLAX, and let's just do a quick little weather check here. Courtesy of VPilot, and winds are calm. So I'm going to assume they like to depart west. 4 miles in haze. It is a hazy morning out there. So I honestly do not even know which departure to expect. I'm just going to go with the closer runway, which is 25 right. And then it's the DOTS2 departure. I remember that from just reading the flight plan and cutting and pasting it earlier, and that's it. That's all I remember. So yeah, then we do DOTS2 to KLE, and there's your whole departure right there. You can go into route, and you'll see that right there, DOTS2 KLE. And then you can just start typing in. One nice thing I really love about Boeing FMSs that I think makes them so much better than the Airbus FMSs is that you can put in airways without having to go into a sub-menu. Everything is here on the routes page. I think Boeing has a far superior routes page for programming a flight plan to the Airbus system. There are some things that are really nice about the Airbus FMS, but I think that Boeing has overall designed a better FMS. Turkey. And then that's it, and victory 2. So then departure arrival in DFW. Estimate is 18 right, sure. We'll go with ILS 18 right via ICL, and it's the victory 2, so let's go backwards through this. There it is, victory 2 for the 18s. And what was the transition point again? It was Turkey, that's what it was. And that's it. And it's in there. The whole route is programmed in there. You can now activate and execute, and that's it. The route is in there. Our IRSs are slowly aligning. They're not there yet, so you can see it's not aligned yet, but that route will show on there. And again, now that you've done the route, bottom right corner, perfect it. Some really neat tricks for those of you that are not familiar with PMDG products. Some really neat tricks you can do. If you're not sure what the ZFW is, you can always go to your second FMC and you can go FS Actions, and go Payload, and you can copy and paste it right there. So ZFW is going to be 117.8. But really neat trick you can do with PMDG FMS just to save yourself some time. If the ZFW field is blank, click on it. It's going to offer you the ZFW that is programmed into the sim. So all you have to do is basically double tap that, and you've got your ZFW programmed in. Everything else you pretty much need to put in there, but really neat trick that you can get your ZFW in there really quickly and easily. Oops. Sorry, guys. All right. Just looking for my reserve fuel, so 41 and 23. is 6.4. So our alternate today is Houston. We need 6.4 to get there with our minimum reserve. Cost index today, and I believe cost indexing works, 71. And I really need to reprogram this because I got rid of this. Yeah, no, I did reprogram it. Let's see here. Flight level 350 until we get to a fix called peso. So we're going to put 350 in as the initial cruise altitude. Cruise wind is showing 342 at 14. I'm grabbing all of this directly from my sim brief flight plan on the other screen here. 342 at 14, and there we go. Perf init is done. You can execute that. And then, again, bottom right corner, N1 limit, so maximum engine limit. So you can go with what they have here. The only thing is that the aircraft will not automatically give you any power setting. But what I did find was a really neat app on my phone here called Topper 737NG Free. I don't know if you guys can see that particularly well, but anyways, it's an app that I downloaded from my phone, and all I have to do is put in KLAX. Of course, if I don't type it right, it won't do anything. And it even has a database of all runways in there, so I can put in my actual departure runway, and it will make sure it makes a calculation based on my on the actual runway length available. I'm going to go with a flap 10 takeoff. The only thing is it doesn't optimize our flaps. We have to pick our flaps, but we can reduce our power setting, and we can put in wind. We can put in altimeter setting and temperature. So 16 degrees at 2993. 16 degrees, 2993. And the only other thing I need to do is switch to Imperial. And go back to the perf init page to find out what your estimated gross weight for takeoff is going to be. 143,100. Weight seems to be too high, so I need a higher power setting. So I was doing initially takeoff 2, and it was saying that was the weight was too high to make it with that, so we'll do takeoff 1 D-rate, but it actually does give me a D-rate temperature as well. So 34 degrees for the temperature. And it will give you a set of V speeds, or you can go with the ones that are generated by the FMS. So if you go with a flap 10 takeoff, which is what I selected here, it definitely does not come up with the same speeds, but that's okay. I'm going to go with the ones in the FMS here, 128, 129, 134, but at least this gives you a temperature for your power setting. And then the other thing you can do here, again, same as the ZFW for your center of gravity. If it's blank, tap the field, and you'll see you get your CFG, takeoff CFG 23. There you go, you can pop it back in there. And that's it. You are set up. Your FMS is set up for departure in the 737. It's really not that hard. It's intimidating at first, especially if you're coming from something like a Boeing product, but or from an Airbus product, but it's very straightforward. I find it's more straightforward than the Airbus in terms of being user-friendly. I think the Airbus has some interesting functions to it, but I think Boeing still has the far superior, much more intuitive FMS system. All right. So let's get through the rest of our flow here. Self-loading cargo, yeah, pretty much we're fully done boarding there. So let's go through the rest of our flow. The nice thing about this aircraft is that it does flow really nicely. So you're just going to go through the overhead panel, top to bottom, one column at a time, left to right, and make sure everything is set up. And I have a whole long list, and it's literally a page and a half of what all the switch positions are supposed to be. But once you've done this about 2 or 3 times, you find yourself very quickly settling into a nice flow with it. Alright, so starting with the flight control panel up here, obviously all the guards should all be closed. We don't need the alternate flaps moving, so that should be off. All of the lights on the right side should be out, and the yaw damper switch goes on. Navigation and display transfer switches, these should all be centered. So normal, 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 unless anything's failed, everything should be normal and auto. Our fuel valves should all be closed at this point. Cross feed should be closed. Fuel pumps should all be off. Should get low pressure lights on the main tanks, but not on the center tanks. Unless the pump is on, that low pressure light does not go on. And we'll come back to that in a minute. Electrical panel, again, these are just dials just to show you what the voltages are on the various buses and systems. You don't necessarily need to do anything with those. The galleys need to be on. The battery obviously needs to be on. None of these lights should be on. The standby power light should not be on. The switch should be in the auto position, but the drive lights should be on because the drives are not running right now. Make sure that the drives for the generators are also both auto, guards closed. Basically every guard should be closed in the airplane as you go through it. Ground power is on, the bus transfer switch is on. Boy, it's getting sunny out there. And generator off bus, that's fine. Those lights should be on because those generators are not turned on. We're on ground power right now. Windshield wiper should be parked, and then you come up to the next column and you go right down. This is just the lighting controls for the flight deck, so right now everything's off, it's fine. Equipment cooling should be normal. Emergency lights should be guard closed, which puts them to the auto position. Seat belts, because we're fully fueled, should be on. And the other windshield wiper is in park. Our engine start switches should both be, or our ignition switches should both be in the off position, and then pick an igniter, left or right. So I'm going to pick the left channel today. Alright. Window heat should all go on initially, and then you're going to see these turn green as they warm up. Probes stay off until we start the engines. Wing and engine anti-ice off when we're during the startup process. Hydraulic pumps, the electric pumps should be off, the engine pumps should be on, and we'll flip the electric pumps on once we get going here. This is just all of the doors, so make sure that it makes sense which doors you think are open, or the ones that are showing open. Forward cargo, aft cargo, forward entry, that's all fine. Cockpit voice recorder, if I hold this in for 5 seconds, it should work. Yep, there we go, see the green light come on. Cabin altimeter should just show our current altitude, which is sea level, so that's fine, and the cabin is not climbing. Coming up here to the air conditioning panel, you can see the temperatures in the, whether it's in the duct or in the cabin itself. You can control the temperature knobs here. We'll normally see the ram doors open when we're sitting on the ground. Recirc fan, leave that in auto. Packs, when you get in the airplane, should go to auto. And the isolation valve should be open for the start process. Left and right engine bleeds are on, and the APU bleed will also go on at this point. So all the bleeds are on, the packs are auto, and the cross-feed valve is open so that the APU can feed starting and air to both engines. This is our pressurization controller down here, so it controls the pressurization as we go. 35,000 feet is our cruise altitude, and our landing elevation, off the top of my head, Dallas is about 850. I'm going to reset that, we'll get a little closer, something along those lines. We can manually control the outflow valve with this valve if it's in manual, but we normally want to leave this in the auto position so that the pressurization computer will automatically control it. Lights, just make sure all the lighting panels here, everything's where it should be. Basically everything should probably be off except for the position lights, which should be in the steady position. And that's the overhead panel. Literally, I have gotten you all the way through to, on my list here, I've gotten you through to about, yeah, pretty much here. So more than halfway through, just by going through it, just by looking at it. So again, I'm going to try and remember to post this in the video description so you guys can download a copy of it and print it for yourselves, because this is directly from the Boeing 737 manuals, except that I took out all the details, so it's literally step by step what to do without a description of each step, so that it's not 20 pages long, it's one page. Alright, next we're going to come down to the glare shield panel. We're going to make sure this is set up here. So obviously we need to set our altimeter 2993. Well, that's not too hard. We're in inches, 2993. There it is. And while I'm setting the main, I'll set the standby as well. We'll turn on the traffic by pushing this little button in the center there. And the other thing I'll turn on is terrain. Since weather radar doesn't work anyways, there's terrain. You can see terrain around here. You can turn on stations and whatever else you want to turn on. This just controls what's showing up on the MFD, adjust the range. You could even put it in plan mode if you wanted to, but really map mode is the most sensible, I think, for departure. And then we can set up our glare shield panel here in a second for our departure. So first of all, turn on the flight directors, left and right side. Make sure you turn the left side on first, because whichever flight director you turn on first will be the master flight director. Auto throttle armed. Indicated airspeed, so for takeoff you should set V2 for your set airspeed. That way, if anything in the engine fails, it'll default to V2. There it is, 134. Looks like it's already defaulted to our departure heading of, oh, not quite close, 251. There we go. And I don't know what the top altitude is, so we're going to pull up the charts here. And this is an LNAV departure. It looks like the FMS is up and running. So what we normally do is we'll arm the LNAV and the VNAV for departure. Loading, loading, loading. take a long time to get going because I'm really explaining this like step by step here, so I really should kind of try to put a little bit of push on to get this going here. Let's see, what are we doing? We're doing the Dots 2 RNAV departure here. And there should be a top altitude, 17,000, so let's go ahead and set that. One thing I will say too is that like the PMDG knobs feel really nice. They turn really quickly. Feel really kind of nice and intuitive there. Alright, 17,000 feet is set for our altitude. We're in LNAV, we're in VNAV, so it's all armed. Pardon me, and if you see it down here in white, it's all armed, so as we depart, everything's going to automatically activate, and we're going to fly that RNAV SID we're going to look at in a minute. Alright, nose wheel steering is armed, and our display units are all in normal, so we can move our displays around if we need to, but normally we leave it in normal. Test our FMC and auto throttle displays, so 1 and 2, just make sure the lights come on, and then you can also test the lights in the whole flight deck this way. Every light in the flight deck, and this place is a bloody Christmas tree. I thought the Dash 8 had a lot of lights. This airplane has a lot of lights. You can also set it dim if you wanted to. N1 and speed reference selector, so normally we'll leave this in auto. We can also set specific profiles for our N1 setting, but normally we'll leave it in auto, and the FMS will set our N1 and our speed. See, we can set it to be VREF, we can set it to be, to just keep our setting, V1, VR. We can set whatever we want on our speed ref. Most of the time we leave it in auto, we'll let the FMS automatically sequence the speed selector and the N1 selector as we go. We'll reset our fuel flow. So it says 0 use, so we know how much we've used. Auto brakes right here. Make sure it's set for RTO for the departure. It's going to give you an amber message for just a second while it arms itself, and then it's good. Brake pressure is in the yellow, but it's okay. Also, the FO's displays are all in normal. These are just all lighting controls. You can turn the displays up and down. Same on the FO side. This is the GPWS control panel, so just make sure everything's guarded. The light's out, that's good. The gear is obviously down. Speed brake, make sure it's stowed. Thrust levers obviously at idle. Flap is at 0. Parking brake set. Stab trim, so these are the backup stab trim switches, so make sure they're in the normal position. And then these are your fuel cutoffs, so make sure they are in cutoff position. Test our fire alarm system, so first we do test the fault side, make sure that we get the fault lights come on. And this one's a bit of a bear to find the click spot for, but we're... Test our fire detection system, we can hear the bell. We've obviously got the red lights flashing, and all the handles turn red as well. While we're at it, we'll test the cargo system as well. That will also give us red annunciation. You can hear the fire bell. Let's get Unicom up here. Alright, and let's set our transponder code to 2000 unless we get some ATC to give us something different. There we go. Alright, the weather radar doesn't do anything yet. Hopefully it will when that SDK becomes available. We've also got lighting controls back here. We can also test our rudder and our aileron trim. So you can see the rudder trim moves there. Centered. And our aileron trim, this is one thing I find odd about the 737. The aileron trim indicator is way up here. So in terms of trying to actually test it and look at it, you can't really do it, unfortunately. So obviously if you had real hands you could do it, but that's about it. We'll test that oxygen now. That's it, and we're pretty much ready to go here. So I'm going to do a quick departure briefing in a second. First thing I'm going to do is we're going to just start up that APU. So in order to start the APU, we're going to need a fuel pump on. We like to do the forward inboard pump. The forward right pump, and you see the low pressure light goes out, and then just simply run the switch to start. The only indication you'll have that the APU is starting is, first of all, you'll see the EGT just jog slightly when the system comes online. You'll see the low oil pressure light come on in a second, and then you'll start to see the EGT rise. That's the only way you know that the EGT is actually starting. There's the low oil pressure light. It's going to start in a second. And then we'll be able to disconnect the ground power and get out of here. In the meantime, we can do two things. We can do our checklist here. So we have a pre-flight checklist. So oxygen tested 100%. Navigation, transfer, and display switches are all normal and auto. Window heat is on. Pressurization selector, auto. Flight instruments. I've got heading 249 and altimeter 2993. Parking brake is set, and the engine start levers are cut off. That's the pre-flight checklist complete. And now we should see the APU has got some stable power setting here, and the way you'll know the APU is online is you actually see the APU gen off-bus light illuminate. So the APU generator is available, but not currently connected to anything. Let's put it on the left bus, and the right bus. And now the ground power is no longer in use. Now it's just the APU. You can see the gen off-bus light's gone. We can remove that APU power, or GPU power, I should say. So we can release the ground power. And anybody else here still need to be released? These guys can all be released as well. And if you ever take the chocks away, that automatically releases everything.
Hi, Captain. All passengers are on board.
Alright, so we got the doors all closing. Everything seems to be going well that way. The only thing I have left to do is really a departure briefing. So for any master warning or other engine failure or other directional control problem during takeoff, we'll stop on the runway. Otherwise, this will be a normal takeoff. I'm totally spacing on my my previous briefing here, so I'm going to switch to my new briefing. All right, for any in the case of any abnormalities of the problem during taxiable stops, it'll be a left seat takeoff malfunctions prior to the V1 of 128. I'll call stop. Go with the call stop. I'll close the thrust levers. Apply maximum burst. Stop on. Apply maximum brake. Disconnect the auto throttle. Apply maximum burst. Stop on the runway. Also the park brake. Call for any required memorandum security checklists. If the call is go or above, I'll continue the takeoff at 400 feet. I'll call for heading mode and ask you to identify the failure. The engine failure procedure, I'm going to assume in Los Angeles, is a straight head departure out over the ocean. Today's taxi out is going to be nope, not that one, this one. Alright, so we are parked right about here, Charlie 9, lane Charlie 9, so we're departing runway 25 right. We're going to taxi Bravo for runway 25 right. Pretty straightforward taxi, no hot spots along there. We get to the runway, turn around and take off, and we're on the we're on the DOTS 2 departure. It's an RNF departure 10-3 Charlie, and effective the 1st of November 2019, RNF SID. Radars required, TTRs required, GPS RNF 1, turbojets only, and turns and hipper and docker are required for ATC separation. Alright, so runway 24 right. Let's just pull up the FMC and make sure that this matches. 25 right. Climb heading 251 to 640 feet, then climb to left turn directed docker at or below 3,000 feet, then on track 220 to cross Weiler at or above 5,000 feet, at or below 5,000 feet, excuse me, then on depicted route to cross DOTS at or above 15,000 feet. DOTS is at above 15,000 feet. From DOTS on transition, maintain 17,000. Let's just check the rest of the route. So after Docker, we go to Weiler, and then it's Schaeff, PV, Holtz, then DOTS above 15,000, and we're on the Klee. So idle, Homer, Klee, and that's it. Terrain around Los Angeles, there is high terrain, especially off to the north, but also off to the east, so we will turn left into the south, especially if anything major happens. Operational, everything's functional on this aircraft, no MELs, and no TAMs. We're going to say everything's probably going to be hunky-dory. I got to get this flight going. Otherwise, yeah, any questions? Alright, so we're ready for startup here. Bridge is off. We got the APU on. So what we're going to do is we're going to use PMDG's pushback process today. One thing to be careful with this, when you select the tug, if anything's connected, ground power, anything like that, that goes off as soon as you select a tug. So be careful selecting the tug. Standard L right, and distance to the taxi line in feet. Let's just estimate. Oh, the door needs to be closed. Let's see here. The plane's about 100 feet long, 200. I'm going to say about 250 feet. So the parking brake is on, and then we can start this process. And let's make sure the door is closed.
We've been cleared for pushback and start. They want the tail to our left.
Roger that. Ready for pushback. Tail to the left. Release brake, please.
Stop that. No, we want the tail to the left. Let's try it again.
Cockpit to ground.
Nope. And then it defaulted as soon as I changed it. Back to 295, so 250. Can I not do 250? That's annoying.
Cockpit to ground.
Alright, we'll see how well it works.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the only other thing we need is a before start check.
We've been cleared for pushback and start. They want the tail to our right.
So before start, flight deck doors closed and locked. Fuel.
Ready to push.
Actually, I should do this flow first here. So just get all the pumps on, including the center tanks. If we've got more than, I forget what the minimum is. I think it's 1,000 pounds. Make sure the center pumps are on as well. Make sure that the packs go off. Otherwise, you will not get enough airflow. There's no automatic shutting off the packs. So you got to make sure those packs go off. And let's get that beacon on. And that's basically it. So before start, my flow is flight deck door. CDUs should be in takeoff and legs. So takeoff, I'm going to leave this on the FMS page, the pushback page. N1 speeds, MCP is all set. Brief is complete. Doors and windows are closed and lock start points obtained. Fuel panel set. Hydraulic panel is set. Anti-collision light is on. And trim will set in a second here. I guess we can set it now, 6.01. But always make sure, if your engines don't start, make sure those packs are turned off, because those packs steal away a lot of bleed air, and without them, you're not going to get very far.
Brakes released.
Alright, here comes the brakes. There's the custom PMDG tug. Give it about 10 seconds and they start pushing. There they go. Alright, clear the gate. We're going to start the engines. Starting the engines is pretty straightforward. Just turn the start switch, the ignition switch to ground mode. And what you should see is you should see N2 rotation start. You should see the start valve open light come on. N2 rotation starts. We're looking for 25%. At 25%, we throw the engine up to run. It's 20, 23, 24, 25. Throw number 1 on and look up. You'll see these valves turn bright, which means the valves are actually moving. Both these valves should open. And as soon as they're open, you should see fuel flow indicated. You should see the EGT start to light. Looks like it is actually going to do a pretty good job of putting us on the line there. Pretty close anyways. And it's just a matter of monitoring the start. At 56%, this is going to automatically turn itself off. The starter is going to automatically turn itself off when we reach 56%. 4, 5, 6. There it goes. I didn't do it. It did itself automatically. Everything looks pretty straightforward. Pushback and stop.
Pushback complete. Park brake, please.
Alright, there's the brakes. Okay, we got a good start on number 2. Or start on number 1, since it's start engine 2. Again, just ground.
Steering pin
See
is
the valve
pulled.
open.
Watch for the salute and release from guidance on your right. Have good flight.
Let's see the N2 starts rising. And that's it. Our plug is gone. Our pushback is complete. We're ready to go here. And I'm just making sure that this tracker started tracking. It did. And I feel like it might be a little loud, so I'm just going to turn the engine down just a little bit there. Flight control light is normal during the start process. There's 25% and then some. Fuel on. So one thing you do have to pay attention, and I'm kind of looking forward to one day getting FS2 crew, and I'm sure it's coming. I honestly meant to look, and I took a brief glance, and they did say that pending the SDK being released for this aircraft, FS2 crew is coming. FS2 crew 100% plans to make a product to support this airplane, and I look forward to that because this is a lot of work. This is a lot of work getting this giant airplane going. She's a very systems complicated airplane. I'm so used to having FS2 crew in the P3D version that I find that I struggled a little bit the first day I got in this airplane again because I've been depending on FS2 crew for so long. Alright, so there is the start checks complete. I'm going to pull up my checklist. Pretty sure I've got everything here down. So the first thing you do is generators. Turn on the number 1 and number 2 generators. That takes the APU offline. And then just sort of, again, it's sort of left to right. Probe heat's on. Hydraulics on. Reconfigure the air conditioning packs. So turn the packs back on. Close the isolation valve, so keep the 2 bleeds up System's different, separate. And don't forget to turn off the APU bleed as well. That'll take that dual bleed source light away. Once you've done that, you can shut off the APU if you don't need it. And I believe that's everything. Let me just go through my list here on my fancy sheet, make sure I haven't forgot anything. Generators, probe heat, window, and engine anti-ice we don't need. Pack switch, isolation switch, APU bleed, APU, engine start levers. That's the one thing I forgot actually. Continuous. So we need the ignition running continuously during takeoff. Engine start, lever set idle detent, flap lever set to takeoff. So we set it, got 10 set, there we go. Flight control check, and then blank lower display unit on transponder. So system page, you can see elevators. And the only reason this is not moving is because I have it lowered. Out of the way, ailerons, and the rudder. Alright, make sure that transponder's on, and before taxi checklist, so generators are on, probe heat, on, anti-ice, off, isolation valve, auto, engine start switches, continuous, recall, checked, auto brake, RTO, engine start levers, idle detent, flight controls, checked, ground equipment clear. Before taxi checklist is complete, it only took me an hour, but we're ready to go. Brakes off. One thing that's a little bit odd about this aircraft, and I'll put the taxi light on. One thing that I noticed that's a little bit odd about this aircraft, for the Microsoft Flight Simulator, is that if I put the park brake on and then tap the brake pedals, it puts the brakes on again, which is there we go. Which is odd. So if I tap the brake pedals right now, that will put the, or if I put the park brake on and tap the brake pedals, that releases the parking brake. I'm not sure if that's a feature of the real aircraft, but I know that was something that happened in the P3D era with every aircraft in P3D, which is not necessarily realistic. In a lot of aircraft, you can set the parking brake and tap the pedals as many times as you like. It doesn't impact the parking brake, but for some reason, on this aircraft, it seems to. Which is just odd. Very, very odd. I don't know if that's because it's a throwback to the P3D era, if that's the way the 737 is supposed to behave, if that's just a behavior that PMDG guys liked. I don't know what the deal is, but I find it very odd. Alright. So this is Charlie here, and we're going to take Bravo, which is the second left here, just before the runway. Los Angeles traffic, American 1331 is at Charlie 9er, taxiing Charlie for departure, runway 25 right. We just got to taxi all the way down. One thing I will say too about this aircraft is that the performance is really quite phenomenal. I'm very impressed with the performance. It seems to have very minimal impact for the most part. Now, one thing I will say, if it's run for a long time, I have noticed that the performance does start to drop off a little bit if the aircraft is run for a long time. I'm not sure, honestly, if that's PMDG or if that's me. I really am not sure. I've been noticing that a bit more since with the most recent sim update, that the longer the sim runs, the worse it seems to run. So something happened in the last sim update that does not like this. Does not like my computer anyways. My processor might be a little bit slow, but let's get going here. Yeah, taxiing about 3 or 4,000 feet down to the threshold of that runway. Geez, a hazy day in LA, that's for sure. And this is just the default scenery. This is the bespoke Los Angeles airport, as they like to call it, LAX. So this is just what the default scenery looks like. I know there's been at least one developer that released LAX. And it's one of those things where it's like, how much can you really charge to overwrite a bespoke airport? Like, it has to be pretty good to overwrite a bespoke airport and be worth it. Asobo does a pretty good job of making these airports, these more detailed airports. They're not fantastic. They're not the most detailed by any means, but they're good, and they're a good compromise between performance and... oh, there's a United flight leaving. They're a good compromise between performance and detail level. You know, you can't have an ultimately detailed airport because it will just penalize your performance too much. It's always a trade-off, and I'm running an old video card at the end of the day. I'm running a pretty old video card. It's a GTX 1060. That is next on my list. Other than, first I want a new Honeycomb Bravo throttle quadrant. But after that, I'm saving up my pennies for a new video card, because this video card is getting long in the tooth, and I think this simulator will run a lot nicer if I can ever get myself a better video card. It seems like now the prices are starting to come down a little bit on video cards, and the availability is getting a little bit better, so hopefully I can get a decent video card for a decent price in the not too far future. Hopefully before the end of this year. Gotta save my pennies. Unfortunately, I found out yesterday that I think I'm going to need to replace the salt cell for my chlorine, for my pool's chlorine generator, so that costs as much as a video card does, and then some. As does pretty much anything that involves a pool. Well, there's not a whole lot of you guys watching, which is a pity, because I do have with me today my QRH. I've said it before and I'll say it again. If I can get 10 people watching this video same time, I will definitely consider setting up a random failure if we're not too late into the flight, just to kind of generate some interest, run the QRH, see what this airplane's capable of, because this airplane, we finally have an airplane that is fully capable of running failures. And this should be on the legs page now. So menu, FMC, legs. Oh, that sounded really loud in my headset. I don't know if that was really loud for you guys, but I'm trying to kind of keep an eye on the levels, so I'm going to turn that VATSIM down, and let me know, guys, if the airplane's too quiet or too loud, especially if it's too loud, really. I guess you won't care too much if it's too quiet, but if it's too loud, let me know. Alright, self-loading cargo. Seats for takeoff. Alright, a quick before takeoff checklist. It's super easy in this airplane. Before takeoff checklist. Flaps. You got flaps 10, green light, and stab trim. 6 units. Before takeoff checklist is complete. It's that easy. It's super easy. I like this airplane for that reason. It's super easy to do the before takeoff checklist. It's funny, like for such a complicated airplane, I have to commend them that they've made the checklists really, really short. As long as there's no yellow lights anywhere, you're probably okay. Alright, so we're going to take position on the runway, so we're going to go ahead and get the strobe on. I'm going to turn off the taxi light, turn off side lights and the landing lights. Los Angeles traffic, American 1331, take position, runway 25 right for DOTS 2 departure. Alright, that's double ding, means the cabin is secured. Alright. And here we go. Let's see if I remember how to fly this airplane. Alright, so first you bring the power up to 40%, just to make sure the engines run nice and stable at about 40%. Just look down at the engine gauges, and I'm supposed to blank this display. Alright, that looks good. And then you just press this screw right here, and that's the toga button. And that brings the power up to toga. Alright, I had to mess with it a little bit there, but I'll tell you why in a second. There's 80 knots. You're up. Alright, LNAV mode. Speed at speed. Should automatically start accelerating here momentarily at 1,500 feet. There's N1 is going in climb mode. LA traffic, American 1331 is clear of runway 25 right through 2,000 feet. Alright, and you can see now I'm following the flight director here. We are accelerating. We're past that 5, which means I can bring the flaps to 5. And actually, apparently as that green arrow touches each number, you can actually bring the flaps to that number. So there's flaps 1, and we can actually go flaps up now. hear that trim wheel turning. Alright, and just slowly accelerating here, making sure we meet any speed restrictions and keep from overspeeding the flaps until the flaps get fully retracted. As soon as the flaps get fully retracted, boom. She gives us right up to 250 knots. And I'm going to go ahead and get the autopilot on there. There's Command A, Command. And I'm going to let it fly now at this point just because I've got lots of stuff to do. I want to talk to you guys. But there we go. We're airborne. Alright. And we're up to set up to 17,000. We got to be at or below 5,000 by Weiler, so we already passed that one, so we're good. So the next altitude is 15,000 or above, so we're good for pretty much an unrestricted climb. Just going to continue to follow the RNAV profile, and at this point we can do an after takeoff sequence. Alright, so in the after takeoff sequence, we need to turn the engine ignitions back to off so we don't wear them out. We also need to turn off the auto brake, and we need to put the landing gear into the off position. So don't leave it in the up position, because in the up position, there's the hydraulic system keeps running and keeps trying to pull the gear further and further up, and eventually will wear out the pumps if you leave them up, leave it in the up position. So after takeoff, and once the gear is retracted, you switch it to off. And I believe that's it. So let's pull out that after takeoff checklist. All right, after takeoff checklist, just to verify: engine bleeds are on, packs are auto, landing gear is up and off, and flaps are up, no lights. After takeoff checklist is complete, and we're on our way, ladies and gentlemen. It only took me an hour to get going here, mostly because I was doing a very thorough explanation of what the heck I'm doing over here. But I do have to say, like, yeah, I feel like I'm mostly just walking through this just so I don't miss any steps at this point. Really, at the end of the day, I feel very comfortable with this airplane already. After having only flown it for 3 or 4 legs again since this new version came out. Okay, maybe 3, maybe more than 3, but I might have flown it like 5 or 6 times. I flew it like every day for that first week. But it's a very worthwhile airplane. It really flies nicely. Everything reacts the way it's supposed to react. The FMC does what it's supposed to do. Look, we've reached 10,000 feet. The FMC is bombed up to 316 knots with our climb profile. You can hear the self-loading cargo binging itself. So we're through 10,000 feet, so the only thing we need to do really is make sure the lights go off. Lights off. So all the landing taxi lights are off. Pressurization check. So let's do a pressurization check here. So the cabin altitude is passing through about 1,500 feet. Differential is definitely increasing, which is no problem. The cabin is climbing slightly. Yeah, so everything, all the indications there look normal. And that's basically it. We are on our way. And we can decide to take the seatbelt sign off. Yeah, it looks like a nice day out here, so let's go ahead and do that. There we go. And seatbelt sign's off, and we're on our way to DFW, ladies and gentlemen, in the PMDG 737. It's going to take us a little while to get there, but I'm gonna put the progress page right up here. It's saying 17:15 Zulu, so that is 2.5 hours from now. I would say it's a very reasonable estimate, and I will say this, like the estimates that this FMS gives are very accurate. There's no problems. What's also neat too is the TCAS does work as well. Have a look here, but you can see this guy that took off behind us there. Oh, that's the guy that took off behind us. There's a guy on the ground at LAX, and there's someone 10,000 plus above us over here. So it does show you other aircraft targets out there, so you can look for the aircraft. The TCAS, I don't know if the resolution advisories work, but in terms of traffic display on your MFD, that definitely works. Your navigation display, that all works. So yeah, it's a very functional airplane, and I like that. I really, that's what I really miss more than anything about this simulator is the lack of functioning airplanes, and they function on the basic level. But when you're dealing with an airliner is not a basic piece of equipment. An airliner is an extremely complex piece of equipment. Hundreds of different subsystems, dozens if not 100 different subsystems that all kind of relate and impact each other. Very complicated flight management computer built into it that just, the simplifications that Asobo had to make to release the simulator just don't do it any justice. Asobo released a great simulator in terms of everything outside the airplane. It looks really nice outside the airplane. There goes a lot. There's, I believe that's a port of Long Beach over there. So that's LAX is just up there somewhere. This is like Santa Monica Beach down there. Yeah, this is the port of Long Beach down here on the south side of LA. So as we're climbing up eastwards, you can see all that falling behind us. But yeah, it's just nice to have an airplane that inside is so fully functional. So I don't know if you noticed that the auto throttle dropped off as I was departing there, and the reason why is because I moved my thrust levers. So let me show you here. So if you see these blue arcs here, actually let's do something about that. Let's get the climb going here to 350. But if you see those, blue arcs on the N1 indicators there, those are the positions of my actual physical throttle levers. So I have an actual, Cytec system here with actual thrust levers, and this shows the actual position. So there I've moved my thrust levers all the way to idle, so it's showing you the thrust levers at idle because the auto throttle is engaged, not actually moving them. But what this really is kind of nice, this is not a realistic part of the sim, but it's a really useful kind of simism, is that I can now sync my thrust levers to the actual power setting that the aircraft is generating, which is really useful especially when you're on final and you're getting ready to take the auto throttle off, and or anytime you want to take the auto throttle off, and it syncs you can sync your thrust levers to the actual position instead of having them suddenly jump to idle or something like that when you don't have the auto throttle system anymore. What I did was I was trying to, there's transition. Standard and standard. What I was trying to do is I was trying to match my thrust levers by bringing them up to the toga position as the aircraft's bringing up the toga. But what that did was it triggered an override of the thrust levers and disengaged the auto throttle. So normally in an airliner, during the takeoff roll, the auto thrust will set the takeoff power, but then at a certain airspeed, the auto thrust will go into a standby mode. It depends on the aircraft. It's either 60 or 80 knots, but it'll go into a standby mode. And so the thrust levers need to be at the takeoff thrust by the time you reach that 60 or 80 knots. The reason there's a standby mode is to allow you to abort the takeoff really quickly without even having to worry about overriding the throttle. So if you reach 60 or 80 knots, then something happens, boom, one engine blows up and you need to abort the takeoff. Your hands, as the captain, your hand is on the thrust lever, and you just simply grab it and pull it all the way back to idle thrust. You're not fighting the auto throttle. So if something happens at a higher speed in the takeoff and you need to abort the takeoff, you're not fighting the auto throttle. Above 60 or 80 knots, the auto throttle goes into standby and it just sits there at takeoff thrust. So as long as the thrust levers made it to the right point, made it to the takeoff detent, they stay there with your hands on them, but the auto throttle is no longer holding them there. So if you decide to bring a thrust lever or both thrust levers to idle because you decide you need to abort the takeoff, the auto throttle is not fighting you and preventing you from pulling it back to idle and stopping the airplane quickly. Usually once you've taken off, there'll be a trigger point where that auto system will go back out of standby and go back into normal mode. It'll usually be at an altitude, it'll usually be like 400 feet AGL. So when it's 400 feet AGL is triggered, which is usually where heading mode or LNAV mode is engaged, that's where the thrust levers will again begin, or where the auto throttle will become active again. So it gives you a chance to, it lets you control the thrust levers directly, because normally you wouldn't need to move them anyways. Once you get them up to the takeoff position, the takeoff detent, you're not going to touch that. You're going to leave those thrust levers right where they are until you get to at least 400 feet. That might be the first time where you might even need to move them. And in most cases, really, you're not going to do that. You're usually going to maintain takeoff thrust to at least 1,000 feet AGL, if not 1,500 or 3,000 feet AGL. And that's when the thrust levers start coming back. So there's no need for the auto throttle system to be there. It's at a set position, and it's going to stay at that position until you reach the higher altitude. So, but yeah, what I did was, of course, because I had reached that speed, the auto throttle was in standby, and then when I moved my manual thrust levers up to try and sync them, it triggered a drop. It triggered a job to try and match them because the auto throttle was in standby. So I'm going to just stop doing that on the takeoff roll because I've done that before a couple times, and you have to really get them up there fast. Otherwise, yeah, it triggers the auto throttle disarm. So anywho, away we go. Leaving the Los Angeles basin behind us. Kind of a cloudy, hazy day out there, but It's always nice above the clouds. And then you can see the clouds kind of end. The clouds are kind of, they're coming in off the ocean. They kind of reach the line of mountains that kind of, you know, ring Los Angeles off here to the north and the east. And then you can see the clouds kind of stop at that point. So the clouds kind of get caught in those mountains and then they stop. There's some really neat, realistic weather. I have to say, Osobo has done overall a very good job with the weather. I won't say it's perfect. It does have its problems. It's not. It doesn't do. It doesn't need to do convective weather as well as it does sort of like more widespread weather patterns. But in terms of certainly kind of nailing some of these kind of even, you know, this is not like a widespread weather pattern. It's kind of a localized weather pattern where the Los Angeles basin gets a layer of lower cloud at it, but the clouds can't make it past the mountains. They get stopped by the mountains, and the climate's different on the other side of those mountains. They do a pretty good job of simulating some of this stuff. Overall, it's a really good system. It's not perfect. The clouds kind of start to look a little bit repetitive after a while. There's only a couple of different cloud patterns that Osobo has here, but it's not bad. It's not bad. And when I think of what the clouds looked like in the previous version of the sim, it really, it's quite impressive what they've done here. So you can see, even as we're climbing now, our power setting is going up slowly but surely, and my manual thrust levers are no longer in sync, but I can just bring them up a little further, and then now it's sync. Like I said, I hope that's not too loud in the background. I hope you guys can hear me perfectly well over that sound of the engines. I might turn them down even just a little bit more. It just looks to me like they're fairly loud. And I want to make sure that the volume is reasonable anyways. Let me just turn. There we go. That's pretty good. I'm just trying to find a nice balance here. There we go. We're on our way in the PMDG 737. Squibbly, I'm so disappointed, but I hope you're still thinking about buying this thing. If not this version, I would highly recommend probably waiting for the 800 version, even though it's going to be the third out of 4 releases. I just couldn't wait. I had to get my hands on something, some really realistic airplane in this sim. So the 700 does it for me. That being said, I probably will get the 800 because I believe the 800 is the most popular 737 NG series. The 600 is really small. The 700 is fairly popular, but I think the 800 is the most popular. Not a lot of airlines went with the 900, but I think the 800 series is the most popular. So I'm going to skip the 600, I think, when it comes out, but I will use the rest of my PMDG credit and get the 800 series. American Airlines does operate 737-800s, and I found a lot of airlines do operate 737-800s. But I couldn't wait another 12 weeks to... I couldn't wait another 12 weeks to buy the 737, especially when everybody was operating it. I was lucky. I was really lucky during that release process. I was watching that website like a hawk. I've been waiting for that airplane for so long. So I was off work that day. I was watching that website like a hawk, and it was funny to watch the PMDG forum as well. There was a thread that was started by Randazzo just with his announcement of the release date, and then starting the day of the release, people just started like every hour posting like an update. Oh, I haven't seen the website change yet. Nope, no sign of it yet. Is it out yet? Is it out yet? And just this never-ending array of people, trying to exchange information. Oh, look, the banner changed. Look, there's a 737-700 banner on the PMDG page now. It must be release must be imminent. And these guys were just in the forum, every 5 minutes they were watching like crazy to see when it was going to be released. And it was just, it was hilarious to kind of watch, and it's just patience, guys. It's going to come out when it comes out. Don't read into it too much. I was checking the website every 20 or 30 minutes for a while there. I didn't check it that often at first, but then once that banner changed, I said they must be getting close if they're releasing that banner. So I was watching it. So when it did release, I probably got it within 10 minutes of the release. And even then, I had to wait about 15 minutes for the emails to come through, for the link to be made available. So there was some serious major issues. I don't think that PMDG's hosting provider realized how popular this aircraft was going to be. I think they just thought it was some small software developer that they have a DLC that they're going to distribute for Microsoft Flight Simulator or whatever. I don't think that their server vendor knew what kind of demand there was for this aircraft. They must have sold, or at least I'll say sold. When I say sold, I mean either via the credit or via a credit card. But they must have sold 10,000 units in the first day. Easily 10,000 units. To see the number of people that were out there just waiting to get their hands on that airplane. So I was lucky that I just happened to kind of look at the webpage shortly after it was released, and probably within the first 10 to 15 minutes I had my copy purchased. Because even then, there was two things that needed to happen. First, it needed to be linked into your account. So even though the order was showing complete, it took a little while for their back-end server to actually give you a download link that was in your on your account page. So that probably took about 10-15 minutes to get that. And then when you went to click on the link, it had to generate an like a 2FA code that it would email you to verify that you were the person trying to download it. And that probably took even longer. That took about 10 to 15 minutes from the time I clicked on that link until the 2FA code appeared in my inbox. So, and that was the crux of their problem. It wasn't the web server itself. The web server handled the load, and when I actually clicked the link, when I finally got my authentication code and the download actually started, the download took all of like 60 or 70 seconds for like 1.5 gigs. That was the installation file. So it was very quick to install, or very quick to download once the download came. But it was that email server that got bogged down, that could not process, that could not generate the links fast enough for the download. It could not generate the 2FA authentication codes fast enough to keep up with the demand. And I'm sure that the guys, I got to think that the guys in the data center were looking at the numbers that were coming off the PMDG website that day and just be like, what the heck is going on here? This is some backwater niche, company that makes software for one very, very specific, very niche part of the world. They probably did not believe the numbers that PMDG was telling them might happen on the first day. I think that was probably the key, was that they probably didn't. They probably thought, oh, these guys are full of themselves. They're way overselling it, and they're never gonna move that many units. I mean, how many units can they really move? They might get a couple hundred people might log in and buy this on day one, not probably 10,000. So I think their service provider, I think their web server provider probably severely underestimated the load that was going to be put on the servers that first day, and I don't think PMDG underestimated it. My best guess is that the guys that host their server did not believe them when they probably gave them the numbers and said, "Oh, this is how much you can expect to see on the first day. Make sure the servers can handle it." That's my guess, anyways. Is that it wasn't a PMDG failing; it was their contractors failing because their contractor probably didn't believe the numbers. But yeah, to see that forum alone, the forum was just going insane, and to know the number of people that had that credit, that wanted to see a PMDG airplane in Microsoft Flight Simulator, it just, yeah, you had to figure there were thousands of people trying to download that software, hitting up the website, the various pages to get through the purchase process. It's no wonder that their server buckled. It's unfortunate that their server buckled, because that's why you get these outside companies. That's why you don't run your own server anymore. You get these outside companies with hopefully scalable infrastructure that can handle this kind of load. That you don't need it. You don't need to have this much server capacity 24/7, but you need to be able to scale it up for those few times when you do need that load. And yeah, I'm sure that they're having I'm sure they had a very frank discussion with the people that ran that server company after that launch debacle. It's very unfortunate that it came to that point. It really shouldn't have. You can hear that airplane trimming away. But we're underway. I forget what leg this is even. Leg number 2. Is this leg number 5? Is this only leg number 5 of Season 7? I feel like we're not that far into it. I guess this is only leg number 5. Or is this leg number 7? I think it's leg number 5. We got a lot of legs still to go. in season 7 here. I can't show you anymore. Pity. But I've pretty much memorized it at this point. So the next flight we have to do after Los Angeles to Dallas is Dallas down to Miami. Then we do Miami up to LaGuardia. LaGuardia back to Dallas. I'm pretty sure it's that way. Or it might be the other way. Then we do Dallas over to Burbank and back. And then we do St. Louis and back. St. Louis and back will be relatively short flights. Maybe for the conclusion of this, we can hit this, we can double team this. We can do St. Louis and back in a single stream. I think we could probably get away with that. That's not as far. Miami's pretty far. Miami to LaGuardia is pretty far. These are probably like 2.5 hour flights. 2.5 hours each of those three. At least we don't have any more epic 6-hour flights, but we've got 2.5 hours each way here. Yeah. I think those will be kind of done one off. This is, again, Dallas back to Burbank and back is also going to be pretty long. It's 2.5 to 3 hours, so it's a pretty long flight as well. But I think this St. Louis flight, I think that's a very good candidate for trying to do that last. I'm pretty sure that's the last turn we have to do that in one long mega stream. And then we can move on to Chapter 2. So I really want to finish this because I got a really kind of nice array of flights lined up. It gives me a really good chance to fly the 737 here. So Dallas to Miami, LaGuardia, Burbank. Some really nice scenery, some really nice diverse legs. So I really kind of want to fly all of those legs. I really want to finish this season, and then we'll move on from that. So then we'll move on to Chapter 2. So I think that's what we're going to do. I have been having fun with Chapter 2. I've been kind of doing a let's see if I can load it up here. Chapter 2. Yep. I have been doing a career kind of temporarily. I am going to reset my career of Chapter 2 when I start flying Microsoft Flight Simulator, when I start streaming it. But you are logging in, right? Yep. But for now, I think we're going to just finish the season of Chapter 1, and then we'll start Chapter 2. So I've been playing with Chapter 2 quite a bit just to try and to get some experience with it, kind of have a little bit of fun with it. It really is quite entertaining. The fact that you need type ratings really kind of restricts the airlines you could work for in a somewhat realistic way. So I'm really kind of enjoying that aspect of it. So I changed jobs already. I worked 6 legs. I felt like that was enough. I worked 6 legs. So I had flown. This is what I flew. I flew. What was it? It was Tallahassee back, and then I flew Indianapolis back, and then I flew Providence back. And so I did 6 legs. I logged almost 10.5 hours in the CRJ there, did 6 flights. 20 hourly salary, $24.88. Oh, no, sorry, that's my new salary. I was getting about $27. So the other thing, too, was that this job I took from Elite Airways was actually really lucrative. It was like $27 an hour, which is, for an entry-level job, is quite something. If you look at the rest of these jobs here that I've got in Chapter 2 that I've been offered, I can't see them anymore because I took a new job, but they were offering me like $19 an hour, $21 an hour, so I would make $27 an hour. I was really doing quite well there. But it's not just about the money. It's also about just the fun of the different routes you get to fly. Elite Airways, I was enjoying the CRJ as well, but I found it was kind of, I don't know, it had a very limited route structure, so I didn't feel like I was going to make it through that much. So Luxair offered me a job, and they're a 737 operator, of course. So I fell for that hook, line, and sinker as soon as it said 737, based in Luxembourg. So also the other thing, I looked at it and I just said, here's a part of the world that I really am not familiar with. I don't operate that much in Europe. There is some nice scenery available for Luxembourg's, and it's got a little bit more of a diverse route network. It hits up quite a few European airports that I wanted to see. So, yeah, I ended up taking a job at Luxair, kind of fly the 737, and it's got a lot of nice destinations here. So you get down to the Canary Islands and Tenerife and those places, out into the United Kingdom, up into Sweden, Finland, Norway, even goes as far as Dubai, which is also a place I'd like to visit. It's a place on the Egyptian coast, Tunisian coast, so Central Europe as well. A wide variety of airports to fly to in Europe, but none of them are particularly long flights, but it hit up some of the places I wanted to hit up. So I took a long time to generate a schedule in Luxair. but I eventually did find a schedule that I liked, but it hit up a bunch of places. It had Dubai, which I really wanted to go to Dubai and see the scenery in Dubai, Tenerife, Las Palmas in the Canaries, and Mallorca. So there's a good couple of airports in this schedule. So I'm just having fun with this right now. I don't consider this like my permanent pilot's life career, but I'm just kind of playing with it a little bit right now, just trying it out, seeing how it works. And then I'm going to reset my career and start from scratch when I do my pilot's life streams for Chapter 2, because I want to do stream all of my pilot's life career on Twitch again, same as I did before. So right now I'm just playing with it. I'm playing with the software, seeing how it works. I did get some messages. Let's check my inbox. Salary income credited, so I got more money. $93. Job application was accepted. Job application accepted. Salary income $49. And then I got another friend request. So anybody who wants to, when you're watching these streams, if you want to send me a friend request on a pilot's life, I will accept your friend request. Just know that if I accept your friend request, there's a chance that I may show your name on stream, and I may show your stats on stream at some point. One thing I find about the software, it's a little bit sluggish sometimes. I think it's communicating a lot with the back-end server, so it hesitates a fair bit during a lot of these updates. Some people have a lot of wealth here, $10,000 already. I don't know how you get $10,000. And some people have amassed a lot of experience points already. 8,800 experience points. How much has this guy flown? Because like I've only got a couple hundred experience points. I've done 6 flights. There's been almost 20,000 hours already logged in the system. So obviously people are flying a fair bit. Airline leaderboard. I'm probably pretty low on my airline leaderboard at this point. This won't even show. This only shows the top 27. Doesn't even show anybody out of the top 27. Experience points, but this is probably experience points at this airline, I guess. So I'm at the bottom. I haven't done any flying for this airline yet. One guy's done 11 flights, amassed 1,000 experience points. I'm coming close to that. Current flight maps. Let's see how many people are flying pilot's life right now. Currently connected, currently in flight, 128 flights. It's not bad. That's a fair number if you look, actually. A lot of people in Europe, not so much in North America. North America, just not quite as much as popular. Maybe it's the time of day too, but Europe always seems to be more popular with online flying. The nice thing about Europe is that it's very dense. You can do flights that are half an hour, 45 minutes long, and you'll get full ATC from end to end because there's just so much ATC and so many airports and so many airspaces so close together. It's very, very dense, I find. So VATSIM, it's the same thing. It always seems to be more dense in Europe, except once Europe goes to bed at about 9, 10 o'clock European time. The traffic starts to fall off in Europe and build up in North America. But yeah, it's I find that nevertheless, even the best days in North America don't seem to quite reach the density that Europe has in terms of air traffic. Anyways, what else can we talk about here? I mean, we've got this whole beautiful airplane at our disposal. It really looks good. Like even the fuzzy seats look pretty good here. They do have a nice kind of texture to them the way they're put together here. I wonder where they keep the QRH in this aircraft. Probably over here. Flight kit stowage only. Flight kits must be restrained by strap. Yes, of course. That's the circuit breaker light. So if you turn on the circuit breakers, that's the light bulb right there. Like it just, and everything should work. And let's actually turn on that circuit breaker light and see. Turn it all the way up and make sure that light bulb comes on. And yep, you can see it is glowing. It is kind of an orangey color. Doesn't make much of a difference in daylight, but everything in this flight deck appears to function the way it should. And if I turn stuff off, I will cause problems. And of course, PMDG does support a full failure model. Same as before. If we go into aircraft failures, we can fail any number of things. We can fail the autopilot. We can choose what we want to fail, whether it be certain channels or the whole system. And there's any number of systems that can be failed. What is under miscellaneous? Let's see what you can fail under miscellaneous here. Transponders, TCAS, terrain, weather, radar, wind shear system, IFSD, clock fail. You can fail all sorts of things. Boom. Now the clock on the left side has failed. The clock on the right side still works. The clock on the left side has failed. That's it. Or you can arm it to fail at a certain point. What's really nice is that we have service-based failures again. So if I go one more time, failures, all systems, service-based failures, yes, no. So the number of hours you log on your airframe, there's always a chance something could fail. And service-based failures are based on the expected mean time before failure of all the various systems in your aircraft. So every item in this aircraft has been rated by its manufacturer as an average time before that item is likely to fail by the manufacturer after gathering lots of statistical data. And that's been programmed in, and there's a chance that any one of these things could fail. And the longer we fly this airplane for, the more that these things will eventually start to break down. We do have to perform maintenance every once in a while, 220 hours until the next service maintenance service comes into play, so it's going to be a little while before that. But yeah, so there's always a chance something could fail randomly at any point during the flight, and I will always leave that on when I'm flying to provide a chance of some interest. However, there's also random failures, which are really kind of, it's kind of neat the way it's done here. So the random failures, when you turn on random failures, you have a set number of events per hour. So if I turn this on, I can set the number of events per hour, per 10 hours, and I can also limit the number of events that occur. So I can set one event per 10 hours, then anytime I'm flying, statistically, there's a 10% chance every hour that something will fail. So chances are on this flight to DFW, it's only about 2.5 hour flight, there's maybe a 25% chance something will fail if I turn this on to 10 hours. But if I put this on to 10 events every 10 hours, then chances are 2 things are going to fail, 2, maybe 3 things are going to fail on the way to DFW. It's not a given, it's not a timer, but it's just a statistical likelihood. There's a probability that it's going to fail. And then you can also limit it, so you can turn it, you can crank it way up so you get like 2.5, 3 failures per flight, 1 failure every hour on average, but you can also limit it to stop after one thing fails so that you don't get multiple failures building on top of one another. So I'm not going to do this right now. I'm going to go back to my previous policy, which is 10 users, or 10 viewers. If you can get 10 people watching this channel, we'll fail something. So right now we're kind of struggling to get to that point. So be it. It is a weekday morning. I know it's not the easiest thing in the world to for everyone to tear away from whatever their work is. I've been lucky enough to have almost 2 weeks off work, but that ends tomorrow, so back to work tomorrow. But if we can get that 10 viewers on, then I will set random failures, and I'll turn it to up to 1 failure per. I'll turn it up to yeah. If I can get that up there, I will set it to 10 failures per hour, or 10 failures per 10 hours, and I will probably get at least 1 failure on the way. The nice thing about that random thing is that it doesn't immediately fail something as soon as you set it too. It then just starts a timer, if you will, to randomly trigger something, so that you can still be sitting here fat, dumb, and happy, just looking around the flight deck and saying everything's working fine, and then not even notice until all of a sudden the yellow light goes off, and you're like, wow, why does something not work? So yeah, I like the way they set that up, that it's not immediately as soon as you click a button, oh, boom, something fails, because you're expecting it. It's nice that you can just increase the likelihood of failures, but you still don't know what's going to fail and when, and that's kind of the fun part as well. So I've got my QRH here ready to go. If anything fails, I can pull that out. We can go ahead and use that. But in the meantime, yeah, we'll just continue cruising along. Let's just see what we do here. If we zoom all the way out, how are we doing here? That's as far as I can zoom out. 640 miles from end to end, and we're still 738 miles. So we're going to start to see some things. This is Texas down here at the end. have status. The DMEs are auto-tuning. Position shift. Rates the relative accuracy of all the different parts of the aircraft. Everything you want to do is in here. You can do holds. The holds are in here. What else can you do? Cruise performance is up here already. Target speed is 798. Fix, if you want to draw certain fixes along the way, you can do that. So let's say one company I worked at, during any flight that was longer than about an hour and a half, it wasn't a set rule in the company, but a lot of people like to just draw diversion airports along their routes. So there's Phoenix with a 100-mile radius around Phoenix. So kind of just to give you an idea of if I had to divert somewhere, you know, where could I divert to? And it's a little bit of a situational awareness tool. So at any point in time, you can quickly look down and say, what are the airports that I could divert to along my route? What's the distance away from them? So that's Phoenix, that's Albuquerque. You know, you can just kind of keep that in mind, because it's so easy when you start sitting up here and you start chatting away to kind of lose track of how far along you are. Something suddenly happens, an engine blows up, you lose pressurization. What's the closest major airport that I can divert to? And I mean, ATC will always help you out, and they'll always give you that information if you ask for it, if you need it. But it just helps for you as a pilot to be that situationally aware, to know that, okay, Phoenix is about 100 miles off to our southeast. So if we need to divert suddenly, Phoenix is right over there. It's a pretty big airport, so it's going to have good services. It's probably an on-station airport for American Airlines, but then again, most places probably are for American Airlines. But you know what I mean? Like you can sort of look at you can look very quickly and say, okay, places that I would like to divert to, the places that have good connections. That, you know, if we divert and we dump our passengers suddenly in Phoenix because the airplane's broken, there's lots of flights out of Phoenix going to various places that we can probably get them seats on another flight if we can't get another airplane to finish this flight. So there's, you know, there's that. I mean, it's not gonna be the sole decision you're gonna make. You're gonna base your diversion airport on is the commercial suitability, but it's something that as an airline captain, it enters into your thought process. If it's a dire emergency, if the engine's on fire, we're gonna land wherever we're safely able, and that's it. Let the company pick up the pieces. But if you have a minor issue, if you have an engine that's showing, you know, high oil pressure or low oil pressure or something like that, and you know, you end up having to shut it down, but it's not a dire emergency. Okay, where can I divert to that's not too far away, that I can make it on a single engine, but that's also going to leave the situation in a way that, like, the company can pick up the pieces pretty quickly and move along, because the people in the back, they're going to be happy to be on the ground, but they're going to want to continue going to their destination. So it factors into the decision-making process. It's definitely not the only factor, and it's definitely the more urgent the situation, the less of a factor it is. But if it's not an urgent situation, if I can get these passengers somewhere online, somewhere where there's going to be a lot of other connections that'll help get them to their destination, that'll help the company get them moving on their way, that makes it easy for the company to get mechanics in to fix the airplane, to get a crew in to fly the airplane out when it needs to be flown out again, it makes life easier. So if you can do that, if you can get to an online station somewhere with good service, is great. If not, if it's a dire emergency and you really need to land somewhere, so be it. They have ways of picking up the pieces. It'll cost the company more money and take a little longer, but it'll take what it takes. It'll, you know. Anyways, what else can we talk about? I mean, we've got this beautiful airplane that we can look at right now, but it's not the only thing we can look at. Because the other thing, of course, that's coming up very soon now, and I think you guys know, added to the list of major aircraft that are going to be available in this simulator very soon. Just trying to take some nice external shots that I can use for my title card here. As you guys probably know, the Phoenix has announced that they're releasing their aircraft in Microsoft Flight Simulator very soon now. Their beta testing phase is pretty much almost finished. They've announced, they didn't announce a release date, but they did announce a pricing model. And it seems very reasonable. It's not the cheapest airplane by any means. And the thing is, you kind of have to compare apples to apples, oranges to oranges. It's a little bit more expensive than PMDG's airplane. I've already forgotten what it was at. They announced just this last week what the pricing was going to be on the Fenix. It looks like a really good airplane. It's an airplane that I would love to add to my sim as well. If I can find it here. There we go. Just have to find the news article because I honestly forgot. I remember looking at it and saying it's reasonable. It's not cheap. It's not come on, load. £49.99, so £49 for 99p. So 50 pounds essentially, which I think it works out to $80 Canadian, for those of you that prefer the Canuck dollar. So it's about an $80 airplane for me. It's a little more pricey than the PMDG product, but that being said, PMDG is only releasing one model for their what does theirs work out to? I think they're at $70, which I think is $80. I can't even remember. I worked out all these conversions, so it's a little bit more expensive than the PMDG 737. But that being said, the PMDG 737, each variant is going to cost you the same amount again, whereas the Fenix, you're going to get a 320 that is fully functional. There really are no other variants, I guess, so it's a little bit more pricey than the PMDG product. Not terribly more pricey, about another $10 or so more, but it is a little pricier. If it's as fully featured as they're saying, though, I think it's going to be worth it. It looks like a fantastic airplane. I've watched just some brief videos. I've been meaning to watch the streams. I've been so busy this last week. I haven't really watched any streams or anything. But yeah, the NDA's requirements were dropped, and so streamers were allowed to start streaming the Fenix A320. So I really haven't had a look at it. I'd love to know what you guys think of it. It looks like a quality airplane. And since this sim seems to be running fairly stably for me right now, I'd say it's a very worthwhile addition to the hangar. Again, inevitably there's going to be comparisons with the fly-by-wire 320. The only trouble with the fly-by-wire 320, it's a good product, but because it's a freeware product that's just being developed by a team of volunteers in their spare time, it's not going to reach the level of the Fenix for a very long time, and that's the problem with the fly-by-wire 320. It's a good product for what it is, which is a modification of the existing 320 to improve upon it, to make it better, to make the FMS work a little more realistically, make the modeling a little more realistic, make the systems actually do a few more things than they're supposed to. But it's so far from being study level. A study level sim that it's going to be a while before they can ever catch up to Fenix. So I think Fenix will have a market. Somebody questioned whether Fenix really has a market when they're competing with the fly-by-wire 320, but at the end of the day, absolutely. If they have a finished, polished product, they absolutely do. The fly-by-wire 320 it's a good product for what it is, for freeware, a freeware mod that's being put together by a group of volunteers. It's a good product for what it is. But for those that really want a very highly realistic, highly detailed sim, the fly-by-wire is not going to cut it in the long run. Certainly not for a very long time at the pace at which development is proceeding. And that's fine because of what it is. I'm not trying to be critical of these guys. The guys that are putting it together have done a fantastic job with what they have and the time they have available. So I'm not trying to be critical of that, but I think there's a big market for a very hyper-realistic, fully systems modeled A320. So I think Fenix is going to have a really good market there. The only headwind I think really for their market at this point, there's two headwinds I think for their market right now. The first is that they're a relatively unknown developer as a studio. The guys who are running it do have quite a bit of sim development experience, but they don't have the name brand recognition at the end of the day. So they're a relatively new developer. They have to build up that name brand recognition. They've done a great job of doing it so far by releasing these preview videos and showing what their product is capable of. And I think they're on the right track. I think it will. I think it's going to work out quite well for them. It certainly has gotten the hype up for a lot of people. But yeah, there are some people who will be a little bit gun-shy about spending that much money on an unknown developer. But they put lots of videos out there already. Watch the videos. There's Fenix passing this out there. There's lots of videos out there, so watch the videos. You can decide for yourself. There's going to be lots of streamers streaming it, I'm sure, so you can decide for yourself if it's really worth it. I think probably it will be. But the other thing too is the follow through, and this is something that I think really separates the good developers from the guys that just dump trash in the marketplace and hope somebody pays money for it. And that is, how's the follow up? How's the follow through after the release? When there are bugs detected, how long does it take to patch them? How much do they support their customers after the product's released? I feel like just to watch the number of videos and the general commitment they have to this product, I don't think that's going to be an issue. But that's the other half of the value equation, is what are you getting for your money, but also what kind of support are you getting in the long run for your money. Everyone knows PMDG does a pretty good job supporting their products. They have their forum. They do monitor the forums constantly, and if they do see issues being reported consistently throughout the forum, they will definitely look into them, try to replicate them, and try and solve them. So I think in the long run, I think Fenix has to prove themselves a little bit as a developer, but I think they will. To see how much commitment they put into the product already, I don't think they're going to just drop it in the marketplace and walk away from it. It looks like they're in it for the long run. So that is the first thing that I think will make people a little bit gun shy, and hopefully they will have the follow through with the community. The second headwind that they have right now is that they are kind of the last of the big products to drop. So we kind of had a whole bunch of really high-end airliners release in very quick succession in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Now we had the Mad Dog, which was highly anticipated for a long time, that released. Obviously we have the PMDG 737, as you can see here, and then we're going to have the Fenix 320 as well. So 3 extremely high-end add-ons. Each one of them is in the neighborhood of $70 to $80 US. It's a lot of money, and especially if you're interested in all of them and you want to fly them, and I do. I really do. I love the Mad Dog. I thought the Mad Dog was tons of fun to fly in P3D, and I look forward to flying that airplane again. Ditto for the 320. I do like the 320. There's things I don't like about it. I don't like the FMS very much, but that's me. I think I don't know. I just find Boeing's FMS so much more intuitive, so much more flexible. Airbus, I find, it's very much like you have to follow the exact script, and if you want to do something slightly out of the order of the script, it doesn't support that particularly well. Or maybe it's just because Boeing leads you through the steps so much nicer. And anyways, but that being said, like, the 320 is still a great airplane to fly. It's a very common, popular airplane. Does a lot of flying, and yeah, you can do a lot of routes with the 320. So it's another airplane that I would love to see in the hangar as a really realistic 320 that fully supports failures, because I enjoy doing failures. Still don't see 10 viewers yet, but keep my fingers crossed. But yeah, it's but having them all release in such short succession means that people's wallets are going to be feeling strained. People are going to question whether they want to buy it right now. So I think that's probably the biggest headwind Fenix is going to face, is just a little bit of wallet fatigue at this point, if you will. I didn't pay anything for this add-on. I got this add-on for free. But that being said, I spent quite a bit of money on a few other add-ons recently. Got a few major expenditures happening outside of the hobby in real life right now. So my disposable income is not it's not there for the simming world right now. So both the Mad Dog and the Fenix are going to have to wait a little bit. And even then, when I'm ready to purchase them, I'm probably going to purchase them one at a time, because I'm going to want to A, not spend a whole ton of money right away, but B, make sure I get a lot of use out of the product when I first buy it. If I'm spending $80 on an airplane, I want to fly that airplane. I want to fly the pants off that airplane. I want to fly it for 50 or 100 hours before I move on to the next airplane. I want to get a lot of use out of that. So yeah, then it becomes a debate. Mad Dog, next purchase, Mad Dog or Fenix. Mad Dog or Fenix My personal leaning is towards the Mad Dog only because I have the fly-by-wire 320. I've been flying the 320 for months and months now. I really want to kind of take the Mad Dog out. So, you know, I feel like that's going to be a bit of a headwind for them. It's not in the long run, but in the short run, people are going to be like, I'm not sure if I can spend the money on another high-end airplane at this point. And there probably are some people who will. I'm not saying there aren't people who will, but there's probably a lot of people in that middle ground where, like, I like the high-end add-ons. I can't afford to buy 3 high-end add-ons in 1 month. It's just, you know, pushing my budget beyond its limit. So, yeah, I think that's going to be their biggest problem. But I certainly wish them good luck. I think the Fenix is going to do well. I think that they have a real winner on their hands. Their product looks really good from the videos I have seen. I guess the other question, of course, is how well it performs on lower end systems. Mine's not a great high end system. I've got a good CPU, but my graphic card is old now and needs to be replaced. How will these airplanes fly? This one's doing really good. This one I've been maintaining a pretty solid 30 frames per second. I've capped my sim at 30 frames per second to try and reduce some of my performance issues recently, because since the last sim update, I've just noticed a lot of micro stuttering when I'm looking around. And I haven't noticed it so much now that I've kind of capped my performance a little bit and taken down the terrain caching a little bit. But yeah, I have had some performance issues in the last little while, so I'm trying to cut down some of the graphic settings a little bit in hopes of lifting it. But I will say this, like, flying this aircraft versus anything else does not seem to have a great impact. Maybe 3 or 4 or 5 frames, but really not a huge impact on the overall performance of the sim, which is great. Like, that was one thing that, like, when you start to combine this 737 with all the other add-ons I would have running at the same time with GSX, Chase Plane, and Active Sky, and everything else that was running in P3D, it really started to add up in attacks on the performance. And you've seen that, I think, in my previous versions. When I was flying into a really intense place like Toronto, and the frame rates would drop into the single digits sometimes because I was just running so much stuff in the background on top of this airplane. But this airplane seems to be very well optimized for this sim. It does not seem to be having a big performance impact on the sim, even as I'm looking around here and I'm trying to see if I can trigger any micro stutters, and I don't really hear any micro stuttering going on right now. Because track IR seems to be one of the biggest causes of it, and not that track IR is the cause, but track IR allows you to very quickly change direction. And if the sim is not drawing anything behind you, it's got to suddenly really quickly try and draw something behind you. It creates a big, I find a big lag behind you. So with track IR, it's just because you can change direction and look in a direction that the sim is not expecting so quickly with track IR, and then it suddenly is struggling to draw stuff behind you. Anyways, I'm just going to post a quick little YouTube post here just to see if we can lure in a few more people. I want to see if we can get those 10 people watching this. If we can get 10 people to watch this, I will set that failure up to 10 failures per hour. Or 10 failures per 10 hours. 1 failure per hour. Not 10 failures per hour. We're not doing 10 failures per hour. Just give me 1 second, guys. I'm just going to go on my other computer here really quickly and try and make a post here. Just a quick little post on my YouTube channel as well, just to lure in people who are maybe not subscribed to Twitch but are subscribed to YouTube, and see if we can get some people watching this stream. Otherwise, we'll just keep on trucking towards Dallas. We're over eastern Arizona, and we're about to cross into New Mexico at some point here. What else can we talk about that was in the news this last week? I did mention that we do have to visit Burbank later on in my pilot's life career. Burbank recently was updated by Orbx. They have updated to version 2, and anyone who's a version 1 holder is automatically eligible for version 2 for free. It's a free upgrade if you bought version 1, so head on down to the Orbx store if you've owned version 1 of Burbank, because you're entitled to version 2 for free, which is great. Isn't that funny? And I was just looking at this on my Pilot's Life Chapter 2 schedule, and Gran Canaria Airport is here on my schedule. Isn't that funny that SimWings has now released Gran Canaria Airport for €16.77. One thing about SimWings, they do have lots of sales, so wait for that one to come on sale. What else has been announced on the Sim news lately? Obviously, this last week, Microsoft dropped a new world update. So now it is Italy and Malta. That's right. I was going to say Spain, but that was the last one. Italy and Malta. So there is a fun place to go and fly as well. And I really kind of look forward to flying that one. Venice, I think, was being absolutely beautiful. It looks like they've done a highly detailed rendition of Venice, and there's a beautiful city to go and fly over. I'm pretty sure in the real world you're not allowed to fly over it, but that's the wonderful thing about being Microsoft Flight Simulator. You can fly anywhere you want. You can fly over military bases, rocket launch pads, wherever you want. There's no restrictions. The airspace is open to all. You can go out and check out what Venice looks like. Also on a list of places I'd like to visit. That was one of the reasons why I went to Chapter 2. I went to a European airline. I do spend so much time flying around North America, and I enjoy it because I think I have so much good scenery for North America, and it's one of those catch-22s. I don't fly other parts of the world because I don't have good scenery for the other parts of the world, and I don't get the good scenery because I don't fly them. So it really is a catch-22. So I'm going to try and start flying Europe a little bit. They do have also great ATC available online most of the time. It doesn't seem like we're getting much ATC this morning. Not terribly surprising. It is a Thursday morning, but yeah, I mean, you take what you can get. That next leg, what's that next leg? It was Miami, I believe, is the next leg. So I'm just curious to see what's the time frame on a flight to Miami. Okay, just give me 1 second here. Let's go to SimBrief and let's do really quickly KDFW to KMIA in the 737-700. And it looks like we're dealing with about the same time frame. I really have to create a custom. Yeah, we're dealing with about the same time frame. It's about a 2-hour and 30-minute flight. So again, doing it in the evening is not. It's possible, but not particularly feasible. It's a bit long for doing it in the evening, but maybe I'll try and do the next flight next week during the evening just to try and get a few more people in here and just to get some live ATC as well. We did luck out that last one. That 6-hour voyage, I was amazed. We had ATC on both ends. We had Kennedy Tower, and we had LAX Tower and Center online, which was quite surprising. I did not expect to get too much ATC for a long daytime stream, so I was pretty happy with that. Let's just have a quick look at VATSIM and see what is anybody's online. Atlanta is online. That's about it. Everybody else, and there's a tower in Chicago by the looks of it, Midway Tower by the looks of it. That's it. Not a whole lot of ATC this time of day, unfortunately, but what are you going to do? You don't really expect it. It's a pity we don't have anybody else able to fly the Entourage. I've got to try and pick these evening flights. I'll say this, like, weekends are going to be probably next when possible for me to fly for the foreseeable future. Come summer, it might become more likely, more plausible. But, because I know we were enjoying Saturday mornings. Saturday mornings were working out quite well, but with the work schedule I'm expecting for next month as well, Saturdays are likely to be a no-go as well. Master caution, fuel. Look up at the fuel. Low pressure. What do you know? We only have 40 pounds in the tank, so that left pump is cavitating in the center tank, so we'll turn it off. And in a second here, that right pump's gonna start cavitating as well. So we've used up the center tanks, we drained the center tanks, and now we're just working on the wing tanks. We're going to get one more caution light here in a second. What's kind of interesting, and I don't know if anybody has ever noticed this before, some of you guys may have noticed this, but some of you may have not. Some of the lights here for the caution panel here, it's kind of oriented a little bit to where they are located on the overhead panel. So flight controls, top left corner, fuel, bottom left corner, electrical, middle right, APUs below that. And then over here on this side, it's different lights. So over here you have anti-ice hydraulics doors, anti-ice hydraulics doors, and you have engine, overhead, air conditioning. So just general engine and overhead, and then air conditioning down here. So the location of the lights, even on these system panels here, is kind of accurately oriented relative to the actual light location on the panel. All right. That center tank is showing pretty much empty at this point. We're just going to go ahead and shut off that right pump on the center tank. The center tank is drained. Now we're just into the wing tanks. Alright, so there's Albuquerque up there. We're leaving Phoenix behind us slowly but surely. What's next after Albuquerque? Next for major airports after Albuquerque. There's Albuquerque right there. Texaco. Really not like any major airports. Amarillo, Texas. Guess we can put Amarillo, Texas up there. Paso's more down here, isn't it? This is El Paso down here, isn't it? Yeah, that's El Paso there. Roswell. Let's go divert to Roswell. Watch out for little green men. I suppose they're little gray men, aren't they? There's not really too many other places, like major airports, between Albuquerque and Dallas. Amarillo might be the next best one, so let's throw that one up there, just to kind of give us something to look at, somewhere we could potentially defer to. All places I don't have scenery for. I just draw a 100-mile radius line because it just makes it kind of easier to spot from further away where it is on the navigation display. I might have to zoom out all the way just to see it. There it is. But on the other hand, at the full length here, you can pretty much see the arrival. It's coming into view there slowly but surely. Still got another. How are we doing here, time-wise? 17:16. Yeah, about 90 minutes to go till we land in Dallas, so not too bad. We're getting there. We're getting there. Oh, I got 7 people. I got 7 people. I think my YouTube message kind of worked there. You guys want to see something fail. Nothing has failed yet. We're just cruising along. 35,000 feet, and actually we were supposed to have a step climb too. Where is that step climb? Step climb was at Peso. Have we passed Peso yet? Let's just go to the legs page here and see if I have Peso up here anywhere. Nope, I don't see it. Let's just pull up my flight plan here and just have a quick look over here. Let's see here, flight log. Peso. Oh yeah. That was pretty close after we... So Parker, what are we on our way to? SLM. See, there's Max. Yeah, SJN. That's right. Oh, there it is, SJN. So yeah, we passed Peso a little while ago, so we're supposed to step climb to 370, so let's get that going here. Alright, reset MCPL2, thank you, plane. And then we'll press the altitude intervention button. and it'll go back into climb mode here. Full power coming up to 370. Pause the wrong audio there for a second. Alright, step climb up to 370. And let's see if this has affected our progress at all. 1716. It's like it's going to cost us 1 minute by going up there. Alright. But we're on our way, slowly but surely. What else can we talk about? Unfortunately, I did not have much of a chance to do anything this week. So this week was a really, and last week especially, was a really rocking busy week. And thank you to everybody that watched and tuned in for last week's surprise stream of the PMDG 737 launch, because I really wasn't going to stream that. I did not have any plan to stream it, and then I got the airplane fired up. It seemed to work, and I'm just like, you know what? Let's do this. Let's actually stream it. Normally, like the first time I get new software installed, prudence dictates that you spend some time. It's 360 climbing 370. Prudence dictates that you spend some time testing the software, making sure it works in your system before you go and start live streaming it. I was just so excited, and if you go back and watch that video, even just a small clip of it, you'll see most places I have a big goofy grin across my face, like a kid in a candy store. It's just like this is the ultimate airplane. This is what we've been waiting for so long in MSFS, just to get an airplane of that caliber into the sim. So yeah, the whole time I had a big goofy grin on my face. I just wanted to share it. The fact that I was lucky enough, I guess I was also a little bit excited because I was ahead of the curve. I managed to get my email codes and everything successfully emailed to me and this product downloaded before their email servers really kind of just completely bogged down and ground to a halt. And I was lucky enough to be one of those people who was at the leading edge and managed to get the codes, because you could see that in the forums people were complaining, oh, you know, it's been half an hour, I don't have an email yet, it's been an hour, I don't have an email yet, and Rendazzo came on like later that night and he just said, like, just patience everybody, like, we're really sorry it's not working out. Obviously we're having some technical issues. If you paid for the product, you will get the product, but it's a matter of processing the number of orders that came in. The server was not up to the task. And yeah, and I get it, like, people want it really badly, especially with the Europeans, because like by the time it came out, it was like about 10 p.m. in Europe. I get it, like the people want to get their hands on it, and they didn't want to go to bed without having tried it. But you know, at the end of the day, you got to give these guys a chance to do their job. It was not obviously a glitch-free launch. It was a huge, big debacle. But you know, as long as you got like as long as you got to be paid with a credit card, like you can see like the receipt, like and even if somehow your invoice got lost, PMDG is a company that supports its customers. They're not going to take $100 from you and not give you something in return. They may have to go and look through the records and say, hey, yeah, we did get this credit card transaction from you, and somehow it didn't get linked to your account. That's fine. We'll fix it. They can fix it. Just give them a chance. Give them a chance to do it, and I think everything's caught up now. And obviously it's been a week and a half, 2 weeks, but yeah. I mean, other than that, like, I was just so busy last week. We had, for the first time in a while, we had a birthday party at our house, because my daughter turned 9, and because of her timing with her birthday being in May, she hadn't had a birthday celebration of any substantial kind, really, in 3 years. The last 2 years, she was caught in the lockdown. Each time her birthday came up, it was a full-on lockdown again. Nobody's allowed over to your house, none of this stuff, so we felt like she was owed, we feel like she was owed a little something there. She was owed a good party. So we asked her what she wanted to do, and of course, being the gamer that she is, she said she wanted a video game truck. For anybody that hasn't actually seen this yet, all a video game truck is it's usually a trailer that's towed, that they tow it over to your house, and in the trailer is a whole bunch of gaming systems set up along one side of the trailer on the inside, and then on the other side is a whole bunch of seats, so that you can go in there and you can play various systems. They'll usually have a PlayStation, an Xbox, you know, something else like a Nintendo Switch or something like that. But they'll have a bunch of different systems set up in there, and you can sit in there and you can play with any number of your friends. So they usually have enough. This truck we had 6 systems with 4 controllers each, so you had capacity for 24 children to play video games at the same time. So it's a fun little way, you know, Obviously, if you invite people over to your house, usually with only one TV, at most 4 people can play video games at the same time. It's not much of a party that way, so this is a good kind of chance for kids, especially in the younger generation, that they love their video games, to have a little video game party with their friends. So we spent like a week cleaning up our house and making it presentable, so that when people came over, even though no one was coming in our house, it was clean. All those little niggling like repairs that you're like, oh, I'll do that next week, and I'll do that later, and all those things you sort of just kind of keep putting off, that keep getting added to the to-do list. We got them all done, cleaned up our yard and everything as well. But we spent literally 6 or 7 hours every day for like a week straight between the inside and the outside of our house, cleaning up everything. So that was one of the reasons why I didn't do really too much streaming last week, was I was just exhausted by the time we were done cleaning each day. It's nice to get everything clean, and our house has not been this clean in 10 years. But the one thing I will say that completely shocked me about the whole thing, about the party more than anything, and makes me think that there is hope for the younger generation, is that we had the party bus rented for, or the video game truck rented for 2 hours. And after about a half an hour, the kids got bored, which just blew me away. And they're like, "You have a backyard? Can we go check out your backyard?" I was like, "Yeah, that's where we're going to be having pizza later and everything." So we had tables set up, and you know, we had the whole backyard cleaned up. So yeah, you guys want to go play in the backyard. So about a half an hour in, most of the kids left the video game truck and went and played in the backyard. And over the course of the next 2 hours, I would say most of the kids spent about 70% of their time in the backyard. They spent maybe 30% of their time in the video game truck, in the dark video game truck. It was hot too. This was last weekend, and it was really hot. It was like 28 degrees for this time of year. That's hot. Most of the kids spent their time running around the backyard. They had the option whenever they wanted. We had the video game truck there for 2 hours. We had the gate open. They could just run back and forth, and kids kind of kept on going back and forth, and they go and they pick up the game and they play Minecraft or something for 10 or 15 minutes, and then they go back in the backyard and they play for like half an hour. And I was shocked. The backyard was more popular than the video game truck, which just shocked me. I mean, it's good. Like it was a bunch of 9-year-olds, so a bunch of 9-year-olds running around. But it gives me hope for the future generation that if you give them the opportunity to go outside and you give them a chance to play with their friends and run around and be crazy outside, they take it. They don't just play video games all day long. They take it. I mean, probably as they age up even further, it's going to be less and less time outside and more time in front of the screens. And sadly, my children are no better than anybody else's. They do spend a lot of time every day with screens, as do I. Unfortunately, too. Probably all of us probably spend more time with screens than we should every day. But yeah, I was surprised, pleasantly surprised and impressed that the video game truck was that the backyard was more popular than the video game truck. Given the chance between running around with their friends in the backyard, throwing around a ball, chasing each other with hula hoops and whatever else silly games we had, frisbee, that was more popular overall than the video game truck. First half an hour, you couldn't pry any of the kids out there. As soon as everyone showed up, it's like, oh, like wide-eyed, and everyone's like, oh, I want to go play this game and that game with my friends and this, that, and that. But after about a half an hour of playing inside the truck, they're like, what else can we do? And they spent more time running around the backyard. I was shocked, and I kept asking myself, what did I pay with this video game truck for? But at the end of the day, like, it gives me hope for the future that if you give kids a chance, give them the right opportunities, they'll go outside and they'll play. They won't just spend their whole life sitting there playing screens. Oh, thank you for that. Why is my... Probably because I reset the sim. Hold on. Thank you for that. Okay, so let me restart my... Because the video game, or the header was up there, you're right, but you're right, it was not updating, it's showing not a number, so it's probably because I reset the sim, it lost its connection. Let's see if this does it. Reconnect to the sim. There we go. Thank you for noticing. That did it. Yeah, it was probably because I had to reset the sim that the header came disconnected. I hope everything else is still connected. Self-loading cargo. Yeah, self-loading cargo says maintain cruise level. I've got some mostly pretty satisfied people there. And just make sure that my pilot's life, yeah, that is tracking as well, so that's good. Okay, good, that's tracking as well, because would want to not be tracking that. But thank you for noticing that was not working. I didn't even notice. Oh, still don't have 10 people. I don't think we're going to get 10 people today. It's just that time of day. But I'll do it. I will try to do an evening stream next week. I will try. I make no promises because it's going to depend on what the schedule looks like, and I've got some obligations next week, but we'll try. We'll try to do it next week. What else can we do? What else can I talk about? One other thing that actually I was very impressed by this, and I'm gonna share this now. But my daughter the other week, she's been. My one daughter is quite comfortable with screens, anyways, with screen time. Let's say that she's quite comfortable with screen time. Has been for a while. So a couple of years ago, I showed her Scratch, which is a very simple object-oriented programming language. Designed for kids. It's meant for kids. It's meant to kind of teach them the basics of kind of programming things. It's a really, oh geez, wind shift. It's a really very simple kind of interface, but yeah, I taught her how to use this some time ago now. And the other day she created some videos that I was quite impressed with. They're very simple. Please, don't expect anything fantastic, but quite simple videos. But nevertheless, I was quite impressed with her ability to put something together with this platform without any help from me. I kind of taught her the most basic things about this platform years ago. And then I sort of, she hadn't touched it for a long time, and then a few weeks ago she went and picked it up, and she kind of created some, what am I trying to say? Some videos. So I really liked the one video. I thought it was really cute. So I actually created her a YouTube channel and posted it on YouTube for her because I thought it was super cute. And she's got a couple more that I'm going to try and post, but let me just see if I can find it really quickly here. So this was the video that she, oh, not this, hold on, if I can find a way to make this, there we go, less ad build. But this was the video she created the other day. Actually, hold on, because it's, let me see if I can crank the volume a little bit more on that. Alright, let's start one more time.
Hi, Fuzzy. It's a beautiful day out. I think it's summer. No, it's spring. It's summer. It's summer!
It's incredibly short and simple, sweet, but I just thought it was so well done. Like the animation, the syncing of the animation to the audio, you know, and like I said, like she did it. Nope, now it's going to show me ads. There we go. I just thought it was so cute and so well done. No help from me. She drew all that herself. She recorded the audio. She synced it. She made it so it would play in order. Oh, for crying out loud. Sobo and your wind shift. So I thought I'd post it on YouTube. And she's got a whole series of them now. So if anybody would like to follow her, I'm sure she'd love some extra viewers and subscribers. I don't normally promote too many other channels. But her channel is called Broken Star Studios, which is a studio name that she came up with herself a couple of years ago, actually. I think she's going to be a content creator before you know it. But yeah, it's Broken Star Studios. I can never... There's another Broken Star Studios out there. There's a defunct channel called Broken Star Studios, but... Hopefully if you search Broken Star Studios, I'm just trying to search for it on YouTube, you'll find her channel here, which is obviously the hand-drawn, the hand-drawn avatar. But like I said, like it's simplistic, but just very impressed with what she was able to do without any help from me. I didn't help her at all. She learned how to use this programming language and use it to make a short video that, and she's made a whole bunch of them now, a whole bunch of little video shorts. They're just very simple, short, but they're quite fun. She's got the timing really quite well down. I just like the simple animation, but I just thought it was very cute and very well done for such a young age. So anybody wants to add a couple of views onto her channel or subscribe, I'm sure she'd appreciate having a couple of extra subscribers in her on her channel. She's gonna put out more videos in the future. She's got a whole bunch of them kind of done up. I only had time to sort of grab one and screenshot the video and put it up there the other day, so she's gonna try and put up some more. But yeah, very impressed with what she can do. The other thing that also surprised me too the other day, and just speaking about her birthday party, and again, like that there's hope for the younger generation. She got so much for her birthday, and we never intended, like, this was not one of those cases where, like, oh, we're gonna have a birthday party, we're gonna invite everyone in her class, she'll get tons and tons of gifts. All we wanted to do was just give her a chance to have a birthday party and celebrate with her friends and have her friends over. First thing, everybody in her class pretty much came. Out of 29 invitations we gave out, 28 invitations we gave out, 24 people showed up. 24 kids showed up, which is crazy. Normally you think like maybe half the class will show up. We were expecting 10, we were expecting a dozen, maybe 15 or 16 kids to show up. We ended up with 24, I think. 24 kids showed up, which is just a ridiculous number. I mean, it's great, don't get me wrong, but it was way more than we were originally expecting. So of course she got like a ton of gifts. She got so many gifts, which was really sweet and really nice. But she was unwrapping them, and she's just like, this is so many gifts, I don't even know what to do with them all. And she ended up giving some of them away, which just speaks to the kind of person she is, I think. But she gave away her cousin came over for a sleepover that night. She got a couple of Lego sets, so she gave him one of the Lego sets because he's younger. He really likes Lego. She gave her sister some of the art supplies because she got a whole ton of art supplies because people know she loves to draw, loves to make comic books. So she gave her sister some of her presents. She just gave them away because she's just like, it's so much stuff. I don't need all that much stuff, which I was very impressed that any kid at any age under, has the wherewithal to say it's too much and try to share that wealth with other people. So there's so much selfishness in this world. To see that kind of selfless sharing, she just didn't want to give it all away. I thought that was fantastic. Anyways, this was my life for the last like 2 weeks, was kind of setting up for that party. So it was all I was basically doing was cleaning forever. And then this week was pool, getting the pool ready because it was such a nice warm week last week. Getting the pool ready for summer. Unfortunately, I think I need to replace my salt cell, which is not a cheap replacement. That's going to cut into my Mad Dog funds for a while, I think. Everything else seems to have got up and running this year. I think I went to the pool store 3 times in a day, in 2 days, but oh, it's always the way when you start the pool up. Something's broken. Something needs to be replaced. Most of the time it's just cheap stuff. In this case, it wasn't even the second time I went to the pool store. It wasn't even stuff was broken. It's that squirrels get into our pool shed and they love to knock this basket over that I put all the drain plugs into, and there were 2 drain plugs in there for our heater that are really quite small plugs. Couldn't find them. The squirrels knocked over this basket again. I gotta find a better place to put these things, but I couldn't find where these drain plugs rolled to, so I ended up having to buy 2 new drain plugs just because I don't know where. I don't know if the squirrels picked them up and took them somewhere or what. But anyways, I don't know what else to talk about with airplanes because I feel like I've talked about all the news. Like the Phoenix really was the news, I think, of the last week or so. That and the PMDG aircraft. So still no release date on that Phoenix airplane, but it's coming soon. It's coming very soon. So I'm not going to be able to get into it on day one, unfortunately. I need to save some money. Need to make a little bit more money off my channel. The next time I get a paycheck from my channel, I'll probably slide that towards the Mad Dog. To be honest, the next time I get a paycheck, that's probably going to go towards the Mad Dog because that looks like a fun airplane. That looks like an airplane I'll enjoy flying. If I'm still working for American Airlines, I can fly it around a bit. I don't know how long that's going to take. I do have to say though that I'm very impressed with the performance of some of the videos on my channel that I don't expect. And the one that is outperformed all the other videos of the last 6 to 9 months was my VATSIM tutorial on setting up model matching, which it makes a little bit of sense because that is a ridiculously complicated process. And someone made that comment in the video that they said I'm coming from X-Plane. I can't believe how hard this is to set up. And I said, yeah, me too. I cannot believe how difficult this is to set up, how many different components you have to put together to get this to work. And when it works, it's great. And you set it up once and it's okay after that, but that initial setup, oh my god, it's like pulling teeth trying to get this model matching set up in MSFS. It shouldn't be this hard. There should be a one-click solution. And I feel like someone's going to come up with it eventually, but it's just not the case yet. But yeah, there should be a one-click solution to MSFS model matching. It's so complicated right now. The thing is, like, the people who make these beautiful AI models, they are a little bit protective of them, and I guess that's understandable. They don't want to just distribute them freely for anyone. They want to have a little bit of control over how they get distributed and where they get distributed. So I get that. But trying to link the AI models that they generate with VATSIM is the challenge, because they don't create those models with VATSIM in mind. It's a great byproduct that they can be used in VATSIM, but they don't create them with VATSIM in mind. They create them with using AI traffic, like looking around the sim at the airports and seeing artificial airplanes, not other player and VATSIM airplanes, but just artificial computer-generated airplanes. That's what they're intended for. So that's what their software is set up to support. So that's why we're backdooring a little bit into their software, trying to set it up with VATSIM and model matching magic. I wish they would acknowledge that it works really well on VATSIM and that some people only want it for VATSIM purposes. I think that's kind of the key hurdle. If you can get them to sort of recognize that and maybe make it a little easier to install for that purpose. I do kind of like the fact that you can restrict the airlines that it installs, because I have to say, like, that package that existed in P3D was great in that it was super easy. The Fly AI, one click update, and boom, it would go through your system and it would download any liveries and models you didn't have. That was great. It was really great, except for the fact that it was huge. When you had the whole package installed, it was like 20-something gigs, 20+ gigs of models, liveries, textures, everything. Huge. And I know, like, we all have a lot of hard drive space available to us, but that one package alone was a lot. I didn't realize how big it was initially. I saw it download for hours and hours, and I didn't think twice about, like, oh, I wonder how much space it takes up. And then one day, right-click on the folder and hit properties. Let's see how much space it actually takes up. And I think it counted like 26 gigs or something like that. It was a ridiculous amount. I was like, wow, that is a lot of hard drive space just dedicated to AI models. So it's kind of nice the way, using the AIG models, we pick which airlines we think we're going to see, so that we don't waste a lot of resources on airlines we don't want to see. I think we could package it up better, though. I think that would probably be the nicest thing to do, would be to package it up regionally. So European airlines, North American airlines, Asian airlines, African airlines. So like different airlines for each region. You could download the region and also allow you to opt in and out of the GA, because so much of what's their models, their list of airlines is like corporate operators that operate like two airplanes. They have like 2 Challengers or something. But now I have a Challenger paint scheme with that. Like, I don't need all those business operators. You only need like a handful of business jet operators to kind of get a feeling for the business jets. But the airlines, you kind of want to see a pretty diverse mix. So I feel like we could better package those up into regions and groups that are sensible for us to install, rather than have to individually go through each airline. And you could miss like one airline, like, oh, you could miss Air France as you're scrolling through the list, and then you'll never see an Air France airplane and not know why, because you missed Air France. Or, just one small airline. Like, and I'm not saying Air France is a small airline, but you just happen to miss one airline in the European theater that you go to, so it's, yeah, I feel like the process is very cumbersome. But that video, like, I am shocked at how popular that video became, to the point where it is now 3 times more popular than the next most popular video on my channel. So sometimes it's surprising, the videos you make that turn out popular, things that you don't think are necessarily going to be hugely popular. I thought it was a complicated topic that not a lot of people would be interested in, and it turned into a very popular video. The other one that I was very surprised to, all the VATSIM tutorials turned into very popular videos. FS Economy was another one where I set up a whole bunch of tutorial videos like a year and a half ago, and they all became immensely popular. they still are popular. There's still people watching them quite a bit these days. It's crazy what videos end up being popular. And the other thing too is, now I was looking at this. I realized that this year my channel is going to turn 5 years old. I can't believe my channel's been around for 5 years already. It's been a very long time. And it's funny, it's evolved so much since what I first set it up to do, which was originally I was setting it up for teaching people how to fly the Dash 8, and I had Dash 8 videos, and how it evolved over the years into showing off some live streaming eventually, and then live streaming kind of become the dominant type of video I have in my channel. It's not the only one. I still put out like tutorial videos. I've gotten away from the Dash 8 ones mostly because I just don't fly P3D, and I need P3D to make the animations and everything, and I have it installed, but I just don't feel inclined to use it at all. So I've kind of gotten away from the Dash 8. If someone brings the Dash 8 into MSFS, I'm probably going to go back and redo all the videos with better graphics, and continue those. But right now, I find I don't have the time. Those videos, those Dash 8 systems videos I made, were always very intensive. They took like, each one of them must have taken 20 to 30 hours of work, if not more, of writing a script, putting together graphics and animating them, and then carefully timing all the animation to match the voiceovers and recording the voiceovers, and then easily 20, 30, 40 hours of work went into each one of those videos. I just don't have that kind of time anymore. So that's kind of why I got away from the live streaming. It's a little bit easier because I can just sort of, there's not as much pre and post production required. I mostly just sort of take the video that's done and then I put it out there on the network. All right, we're getting there. I think I'm going to just step away for just a couple of minutes because I'm hearing the call of nature right now, and I might just refill my coffee cup as well. But stay tuned, guys. I'm going to be back in less than 5 minutes here. I just, like I said, just got to heed that call of nature. When we get back, we'll probably start setting up for the descent here. So I'm just going to throw this up there. I'm going to throw this on the external view. Just scroll that down a little bit more so you can actually see it. And yeah, so I'll be back in 5 minutes, guys. Stay tuned, don't go away. guess it helps if I unmute that. There we go. Alrighty. Welcome back, everybody. Just need that quick little nature break. Step out of the flight deck, use the lab, and then we're all good, right? There's just something about the way this sim looks. It just looks so good. Even when things are not right, even when things are crooked, it still looks so good. Just play with this drone mode a little bit here. Just take myself away for a second here. See, and the drone does like do like some neat effects like that. Like you can do. I just wish I could use the mouse a little bit to control the drone, as it were, so I could, you know, sort of, rather than kind of doing bursts, I could do it as a little more slowly. I know there are ways to do it to control the drone speed. It's not impossible to do. It's just not always the easiest thing to do. Anyways. Trying to find some nice external shots. Want to become famous? Buy viewers, followers, and primes on viewers? No. No, thank you. I have an appropriate level of fame for myself. Do the other side, just so it's the sunny side. Funny because the constant undulations up and down are interesting to try and chase. Anywho, probably enough of that for now. Alright, we are going to come up to our top of descent here in about 100 miles or so, so I guess it's time to actually start. Pardon me. Start actually setting up again here. Let me just put myself down there. There we go. Alright. Yeah, so let's start setting up for our arrival into DFW. And still no ATC in sight. Not really much of a surprise there, to be honest. Let's see here. Winds 218, gust 28. Ooh, windy. 10 miles, clear skies, 28 degrees, 2974. Peak wind 190 at 28. Okay. So it looks like we're going to stick with landing south. That's fine. We already had it set up, so let's just do this. Let's go in here. So let's just confirm that we've got what we want here, but we should have 18 right. Yep, there it is, 18 right. Alright, so what we'll do is we'll go do a flaps 30 landing today. Gives a VREF of 135. And let's just start pulling up some charts as well. Alright. You can see where my daughter gets her immense vocal talent from. Okay. And then she asked me, so when do I start making money on YouTube? Yeah, it took me 5 years, and I'm making a couple $100s a year. So yeah, I mean, if you can go viral, if you can find something people really want, and they're like, oh, well, let's do videos of Minecraft. I'm like, oh my god, there's 1,000 and a billion half videos of Minecraft out there on YouTube. No one is going to watch another Minecraft video out there. Alright, 111.9, 176. So we need 111.9. And we need course of 176. And I don't have anybody say it. No track IR to help me. So 176. And 176. Whoop. Go. 176, 176. Alright, so that's good. And minimums for this, we're doing the Cat 1 ILS 807. Alright, so minimums Our barrel minimums 807. So let's just click and hold so it goes faster. This is one of the few places where I think the Airbus does get it a little better, just typing in a number. Because if you have to go to Denver and you have to wind up to 5,000 feet, it's going to take you the rest of your life. 807 feet set. Alright, so that's that. So we got speed, we got minimums, frequency, I got the course. I think we got everything set. Just need to do the briefing. Alright. So, let's do this. Let's move this and this. Victory 2 RNAV arrival. ILS 18 right. Airport info. Nope, not that one. This one. 60-9. And you know what we're going to do as well? We're going to just really quickly check on the other computer here and just find us a gate. Courtesy of FlightAware. So it seems like 1331 is now the reverse and is DFW to LAX. So now I'm trying to find one. And oh, there's one. It's going to arrive at gate Bravo 11 in DFW. So Bravo 11. There we go. So. Ah, good. West side, that works. Landing on the west side, taxi in on the west side. Don't need to use the bridge. Nice. Okay, so let's plan on that. Let's plan on gate Bravo 11. Alright. Are you ready for the approach briefing? Oh, right, there's no FS2 crew. Alright, let's get this up there. I just did not like drawing that for some reason, so let's do this. There we go. Alright, so this is the Victory 2 RNAV arrival. First of all, we got the speeds in, and we don't have a landing distance calculator, but we're going to say that 10,000 feet is going to be sufficient for today. 60-2 uniform, effective on the 10th of August of 2018. Radars required RNAV 1 DDR, GPS required, turbojet aircraft only, that's us. Aircraft should expect the ILS or low runway 18 right, that's what we're planning on. Used for when DFW is operating south flow, okay. And Arbuckle transition, not us. Alright. So let's follow along now, starting at Turkey, which is the next fix here after Texaco. We're going to go to Ganja, Quana, Walter at 290 knots between 24 and 30,000. We're passing over Texaco right now. Rugger at 290 knots above flight level 230. And then Glock at 290 knots between 17,000, flight level 190. Lehman 270 between 16 and 13. And then Victory 250 between 10 and 11. Then Z-Man 250 between 9 and 7. And for landing south, it's going to be, yeah, it's going to be this one, 5,000 feet at 230 knots. That's the bottom altitude of our arrival. And after that, we do get a vector 90 degrees until we get onto the ILS to runway 18 right. Alright, so this is on plate 61-10, effective on the 12th September 2014. LOC IVYN 1119. So let's just make sure again. We got 1119 up and ready to go both sides. And 176 is also set on both sides. Glide slope at Neti is 2,400 feet, and the ILSDA at the bottom, Cat 1 807. 807 is set. 607 for the touchdown zone, so I may have dialed this up too high. There, now it's 600. There we go. MSA south of the field is 3600 from the Maverick VOR, which is at the south end of the field there. Missed approach is climbed to 1100 feet, then a climbing right turn, 3000 feet on a heading of 250. So 1100 feet, right turn 250 heading and intercept the 222 fuzz radial outbound to the Lakes intersection and hold at Lakes at 3000 feet. Let's see here. VGSI and glide path not coincident simultaneous approach is authorized with the 17 side and MLSR at Pappy's left on 18 left. So there's also some approach landing on 18 left. Make sure we're landing on 18 right. It is 3-degree glide slope. It is Pappy's on the left side, ALS2 lighting system. RVR is 800, 38 miles. Supposed to be a beautiful VFR day. Once we land on 18 right, it's going to be a convenient left turn off the runway. We're probably going to be about somewhere halfway down, maybe Echo 4, maybe Echo 6. And while we're at it, before I forget, let's just turn on that auto brake to number 2. And then we're going to have to cross 18 right. And then up to Bravo 11, which is right about here. So we'll probably go northbound on Gulf until we get to, we're going to say spot 122 and go in on spot 122. There's a ball flag note there, number 4. Where are the ball flag notes? Apron entrance points. Wingspan greater than 118 feet. I don't believe that's us. I'm pretty sure we fall under the 118 foot mark. If it's anything bigger than a 737. Yeah, that's about it. Terrain, again, 3,600 feet south of the VOR off the Maverick VOR. Weather is VFR day, just a gusty wind out of the southwest. It's almost down the runway, so it shouldn't be too bad. Operational, no MELs, nothing's failed on the aircraft. And what do you think here? And just as I'm looking over here, DFW East Ground popped up. Well, it's somebody. it's some ATC has just popped online, so we'll talk to somebody after we land. Let's see here. Yeah, operational. No MELs, no TAMs. I'm going to check in a minute. And fuel. So I believe we said we needed like 6.1 to go to our alternate. 6.4. And right now we are showing, progress shows 13.4. So we got about 5. We got about 5 extra, 5,000 extra. So we got 2.5 tons of extra fuel. That'll easily, get us an hour of flying. So we can definitely hang out for. Definitely hang out and hold for about an hour. Definitely do a couple of go-arounds if we miss for any reason. So we're lugging quite a bit of extra fuel. So good. All right, so that's it for the briefing. Any questions? No questions. I'm my own FS2 crew here. The only thing I didn't do was I didn't look at the NOTAMs, which I said I was going to do here. So let's just pull those up really quickly. DFW is always one that has a whole lot of NOTAMs. Let's see here. Hold the position sign. 18 left, taxiway Mike, Whiskey Mike, okay. Between Echo and 18 right left. I guess I should have left those charts open. So let's do this. Let's close that pane. Let's narrow this down a little bit. Let's bring those charts back up again here. Just so we can check what we got going on here. Alright, so there's Whiskey Mike. I believe it was Whiskey Mike, right? Alright, Whiskey Mike between Echo and 18 left, 36 right is closed. Alright, so we can take Whiskey Mike, which is the Echo 6 entry. Radio altimeter is unreliable, taxi clean. Parking. Nope, nothing there. SIDS don't affect us because we're arriving. Approach procedures, ILS 18 right, anything? Just the special authorization ones, which we're not doing. 18 right, looking for 18 right. I don't see 18 right anywhere. That's it. Okay, so no node times that affect our arrival process other than just this one small section of taxiway being closed. So we'll just have to keep an eye out for that. And that's about it. Cool. Alright, and now that we have a DFW ground online, he's got an ATIS up and running. Visual approaches to 13 right, 18 right, 17 center, 17 left. Yeah, we're going to do 18 right. There, that's about it, I think. Huh. I feel like there was something else I wanted to check, but I can't remember now. All the data seems to be in there. We got our top of descent point coming up in... Yeah, it's about 100 miles from now, I guess. But we're getting there. We're getting there. We're going to be on the ground in just a little over... about a half an hour until we're on the ground. Now we've kind of left the arid plains behind us, and we're over West Texas. Some farm fields out there, farmland. It's good cattle grazing country. I don't honestly know really what. I don't honestly know what Texas all that well. Certainly the outskirts of Western Texas. What's the money-making industry? Looks like an agricultural area, but I don't know what they're making money off of out here. All right. Well, at least we got one ATC, so we'll talk to one controller on our way in. Oh, that's what I was going to look up. I wanted to look up the wingspan of a 737-700 to make sure it's less than 118 feet. I'm pretty sure it is. I'm about 90% certain it is, but I do have good old FCOM here. Just got to find it. Not sure if it's in the FCOM Volume 1 or Volume 2, but yeah. I think it's in number 2. Let's check number 2 here. Principal dimensions, that's what we're looking for. Okay, stop. Alright, wingspan, 112 feet 7 inches. That's for the 600. 112 feet 7 inches, same for the 700. Oh, and then, yeah, the 800 and 900 just fit into that at 117.5 feet. That's exactly what it's designed for. Alright, so 112 feet. So yeah, we are less than 118 feet. That's what I was trying to look up. I was trying to look up whether, yeah, whether it was less than 118 feet or not. Because you see that is often a restriction. That is a common restriction. Is 118 feet is a common limit. But the 320, that's the limit that the 320 and the 737 fit into. So anything 320, 737 or smaller fits into 118 feet. I'm also trying to look for some other system. I can't remember what I was looking for now. There was something else I wanted to look up. There's any bookmarks in this either. That's the only trouble with these PMDG FCOMs is there's no bookmarks. Oh my god, trying to find like specific information, excruciating sometimes. What am I trying to look up? I was trying to look up the auto throttle system because it's, like I said, it's given me some issues in the past, and now is not the time to read it. But volume 2. So flight management. I'm not even sure where to find it. flight management system. Anyways, I have to look that up and read up more on it another day, because it has been giving me some issues. I still can't get it to always go to idle in the flare. Sometimes it'll just keep the power up, and then it'll just keep on trucking along. So it's been a little bit frustrating sometimes to deal with. This other airplane here, 3,000 feet below us. They should be westbound if they're 34. Got some nice displays. I like that the navigation display works. I guess that PMDG used their own custom database again, because I know that they're talking about making it available through the SDK from Asobo, but it's not been made available yet. Oh, my voice is starting to die here. Still got 30 more minutes to go. What are we going to talk about for 30 more minutes? Now, here's something else neat I saw the other day. Again, not... you know, something that's kind of interesting and kind of interesting as much for just what it could do to the market. And this was kind of neat. So I saw this, and you guys may have seen this as well, but Simple FCU, which is a just a very basic autopilot controller that you can sit on your desktop. Even got some extra lights down here for landing and park and brake. But what's really kind of neat about this is the price point and where it kind of fits into the whole simming experience. So the price point on this is actually quite low. It's $150 for the unit itself, but the other part of this price point is that the knobs and everything that go on the interface are you have to make them yourself. You have to print them yourself with a 3D printer. They send you the designs, but you can select different knobs, which then can match the type of aircraft you have, whether it be an Airbus style aircraft or Boeing style aircraft. You can do different knobs with different textures to sort of match those, whether it's the Airbus style knob or whether it's the Boeing style knob. They'll have a different selection, so you can customize this this particular FCU to match the way you prefer to operate. The only thing is, of course, you need to have your own 3D printer, which is becoming more and more popular, but it's definitely, I would say, by no means mainstream at this point. In the sense that, like, you know, I wouldn't say even close to 50% of households would have them. But if you do have your own 3D printer, if you're that into simming, 3D printer is probably actually a useful idea if you're ever building your own home cockpit, because you can print so many components that you would never ever be able to get the customized units, which just be exorbitantly expensive. I've looked at it, and you can buy everything you need on the internet to build your own you know, home flight deck. You can build a pretty accurate simulator in your house, but the cost of some of these components, especially when you start adding it up, so you can buy all of these switches, all of these lights, you can buy them all, but how many of them are in here? Like, these are, you know, a lot of these are like $5 to $10 a piece, so you're going to spend hundreds upon hundreds of dollars just making this overhead panel, which is probably the most complicated part of the whole airplane, is this overhead panel. And this is one of those things too that, like, you look at it and it's like, it's one of, I think this overhead panel more than anything else belies the age of this aircraft, where it's just so many different components, so many different colors even. Like, it's not even the same gray color everywhere. It's, some of these things are dark gray, some of them are like a background gray, some of them are light gray. So many different systems kind of mashed together. It's very... It does not look clean. It looks very cluttered because of the way it's designed. And I realize it's commonality with the way the aircraft used to be designed, and many of these systems would come from different manufacturers. But you take a look at like a modern Airbus flight deck or the Embraer flight deck, where everything is from the same manufacturer. At least certainly the switches are all from the same manufacturer, and it's a very consistent look to it. It's got a much cleaner, simpler look, and it's not just because of the number of switches up here, but also because of the chaotic way they're arranged. You know, some of these panels stick out. Some of them are kind of recessed. Some of them have like weird shapes. Like, there must have been an old gauge here that used to show the power or something here, and then they just kept the same size thing, even though they were blanked out these panels. They kept the same size in the engine. It just, you look at some of these things and you go, why? Design decisions. Such poor design decisions in some cases, I think. And it looks more chaotic and intimidating than it actually is, just because of the chaotic design of the whole thing. I mean, there are some useful ways this is done. Like there is a sort of semi-diagrammatic layout to the fuel section. There's a semi-diagrammatic layout of the air conditioning section. Like certain aspects are there, but just the way the whole thing looks, it's been mashed together from 17 different pieces from 14 different manufacturers. It just looks absolutely chaotic. And then trying to imagine buying all those switches. That would cost you a pretty penny. You can buy a complete 737 CDU or a complete 737 overhead panel online, but it's like, yeah, I think it's like $2 or $3 grand. Maybe it's 10 grand. I don't know. I can't remember. It's huge. Like if you ever won the lottery, you could do it. No questions. No question. The parts exist out there. You could do it. You could put together a whole 737 flight deck if you won the lottery. If you had the space for it and cost was no object, you could do it. But there's so much complexity to this airplane. So many buttons, so many panels. I like the airplane, but sometimes I just shake my head and I just say, guys, Boeing, what were you doing here? Yeah, I feel like it's an overly complicated panel. It doesn't need to be as complicated as it is. But again, I think it throws back to back in the day, like they used to have many different manufacturers make many different things, and they put them in wherever they could fit them. And there wasn't as much of an order. There wasn't as much organization. Nowadays, like modern systems design tells us make it simple, logical, ordered, so that you can find the systems you're looking for much easier. Because otherwise, like I know where the things are now because I have a general sense of the layout. And after you've flown this airplane for 10 or 15 hours, you get a sense of the layout of this panel. But still, even then, it still just seems so chaotic. Alright, we are less than 40 miles from our top of descent. We're going to say we're cleared to descend via the Victory to arrival, so we're going to go ahead and set the bottom altitude of 5,000 because we get to descend via clearance. There we go. Maybe that ground controller will lure some airborne controllers on. 5,000 feet is set. We are in VNAV mode, so it'll start down now by itself when it reaches that top of descent point. And then we'll have another leg done. West Texas, yeah, so if anybody knows, I don't know what the primary agriculture is in western Texas. Is it ranching, and is this all livestock feed, or is this produce for human consumption? I just don't even know. I was reading an article about the food production system worldwide and how precarious and fragile it's becoming now, and how it's lacking of any redundancy and resiliency, partly because of the incredible efficiency we've gotten, but also mostly because of the concentrated control of the industry as a whole. And they said the article mentioned that 4 companies worldwide control 60% of the grain that is produced, that's grown worldwide. 4 companies control 60% of that market. There's still lots of small individual farmers and smaller companies, but like so many other industries, the food production industry is becoming dominated by a few huge behemoth corporations. And food is such an essential. It's something that we all need. We need resilience in the food system, and one of the big premises of the article was that our food system is becoming incredibly insecure because of this concentration of power and the standardization of the food industry. And by standardization, I don't necessarily mean the techniques per se that are growing, but the foods themselves that are being grown. Everywhere worldwide now, farms are slowly being switched over. They're being bought up by major corporations who switch to the best yielding foods that are out there, the ones that can make the most money off a given square foot of land. The trouble with that is if you end up growing the same crop everywhere, it only takes one parasite, one fungus, one disease of some kind to wipe out so much of your crop and so much of your production capability by spreading that one disease, worldwide. Diversity is one of the most important things we need when we're talking about security in the food industry. We need different farmers to be growing different products, so that if one product does not do particularly well in a given year because of drought conditions here, the guys down the road will have a product that may do better because theirs is perhaps more drought tolerant, or perhaps we have a really rainy year, and the more rain tolerant crops will survive, and the ones that need perhaps a little bit less rain and need to be drier a little bit longer will not. So we need to diversify, and the trouble is, like, so much of the planet is becoming extremely homogenized in terms of our diet, in terms of what we eat, in terms of what we grow. They talk about the global standard diet, and more people are eating a smaller and smaller number of products. That is becoming a real problem. You know, you look at something like the banana industry, but you know, almost everyone around the world, like 75% of the bananas sold around the world, are one particular species of banana, and that particular species has been susceptible to a certain fungus that's been spreading, and all of a sudden huge swaths of crop production are wiped out, and it's becoming more and more of a problem. Everyone is growing the same products, the same products in the you know, around the world, and again, you get one shock to the system. You get one disease that affects this particular species, no other species, but this particular species, and all of a sudden you're wiping out huge swaths of production because everyone's growing the same thing. We need diversity. Everyone sort of likes what they like, and we've all been sort of trained to like the same foods and eat the same foods from the same brands over and over again. But at the end of the day, the world's going to be a lot safer. The world's food supply is going to be a lot safer if we have diversity in the industry. Different people growing different breeds that are perhaps better attuned to certain climates, but also just to offer some resilience against pests. There will be diseases, there will be funguses that affect plants and perhaps rodents and pests that will affect certain crops. It's going to happen, and one of the key ways to fight this is to have diversity, so that the crop that one particular pest tries to eat, they may not eat a different type of crop, even a different species of the same crop. But these few corporations, they figured out that these particular plants grow with the maximum efficiency per square foot, the maximum yield per square foot. So these are the plants we want everyone to use. We want all the farmers, especially any farm that we control, and farms are becoming highly concentrated as well. A lot of corporations are buying up the small farms, and then they're contracting them out to people to run, but they're owned by these large corporations that dictate what should be planted. And again, it comes down to what's the most efficient, what gets us the most profit per square foot, per acre. What gives us the most profit per acre? That's what we're going to plant. And there's no kind of it's like this. It's because of the stock market that all these multinationals feel this constant pressure to profit. But it's like the stock market. If everyone's invested in the same thing and that one thing tanks, everyone loses their money. Except that this is not just money we're talking about. This is human lives, because of course everyone's got to eat. And so often in the stock market too, it's all about the short-term gain. What gives me the most profit this year? What's going to show the most profit in the next quarter? Never mind whether it's good for us in the long run. The way so many companies run, it's just like once they get past a certain size and they become so beholden to their shareholders, it's like anything to make a profit. Well, if we can sell, rather than invest in researching new technologies and new products, so many companies instead just buy back shares. We'll just take hundreds of billions of dollars of cash, buy back shares, make our shareholders even richer, but we're not building towards the future. The only way then to sustain this company is to continually buy back more and more shares until almost all the shares have been bought back, and the few shares that exist are worth a ridiculous price. Because it's all about just serving that next quarterly statement. As long as I make a profit next quarter, the quarter after that is irrelevant. But it's not irrelevant. At the end of the day, you're going to get to that quarter. Your time marches on. You're going to get to that point, and then you're going to have to show a profit for that quarter. And if you haven't invested in the future, you're not going to be able to show a profit. Your company is eventually going to shrivel up and fall behind if you don't invest in the future. But so many companies, the stockholder is the only thing that they concern themselves with. But it's such a short-sighted way to operate. I admire the companies that can operate keeping their shareholders at a distance. keeping them at an arm's length. It's like trying to build it's like trying to run a transit system. You don't want the politicians directly running your transit system, because each politician is going to make an election promise. They're going to try to get themselves elected, make some promise to build some line, whether it's useful or not. You don't want that. You want your politicians and your city planners at arm's length. You don't want the city planners to be, you don't want the politicians to be dictating to the city planners exactly how the city can be planned out, because they're going to come and go with the whims of the tide, and they're going to disappear next month or 4 years down the road, and somebody else is going to come in with different ideas. You want the people who are going to be here for the long term, who are studying the problem, who are building for the long term, to be the ones making these decisions. But that's so often the opposite of how we plan our cities. That's the opposite of how the stock market runs. The stock market is all based on short-term gains, and so few stocks are really pushing for long-term growth. They're all pushing for, I've got to look like I'm growing next quarter. I mean, look at Netflix. Netflix was, growing for years and years and years, and because of that, everyone sort of just expected it was just going to grow forever. It's like there's a limited number of people on Earth. You can only have so many Netflix accounts. There's only so many people that can afford to pay for Netflix every single month. So eventually, you're going to run out of subscribers. And then Wall Street was shocked when suddenly, all of a sudden, one day, Netflix said, well, we lost subscribers last quarter. It's like, well, it was going to happen eventually. You can't expect infinite growth forever. It's just such a naive attitude. Instead, why don't you make sure your company has great underlying fundamentals, so that you can continue to make a profit for years to go? But instead, because they were just chasing those short-term gains, Netflix is losing huge now, because now they don't make. Now all of a sudden they have to try and make ends meet with the number of subscribers they have, and they were just I kind of laughed a little bit at how shocked everyone was that they lost subscribers. It's like it was going to happen eventually. Like I think about it every couple of weeks when I turn on the TV, and I'm like, there's nothing on here but the same old drivel, and there's so few good original shows. Netflix used to be very good at kind of launching new, unique, original shows, and now it seems like it's just the same old drivel coming out. They're just the same as cable television now. Yeah, it makes me wonder if Netflix is really worth it in the long run. I contemplate every single time they say they're raising rates. I certainly contemplate seriously whether it's worth paying for it anymore, because in the long run, it's not going to be. They don't have enough good content. They have a lot of mediocre content that's okay, that you'll watch it because you're paying for it. And you should probably watch something on it, but not certainly nothing that would make you say, hey, I should stay subscribed to Netflix because it's definitely worthwhile content. Alright, we're on our descent to DFW. I guess I should do the descent checklist, if I can pull up my checklist over here. Descent checklist. Pressurization, landing altitude is set. Recall. Checked. Auto brake. Level 2. Landing data. VREF 135, minimums 807 feet. And approach briefing is complete. Descent checklist is complete. And the altimeter here in DFW. 2974. And what I should do, and what I like that you can do, is you can preset this. And all I have to do is flip the standard button. So it's preset there, it's ready to go, and all I have to do is flip the standard button and it'll flip to that altimeter setting directly. I do like that, that's a smart feature. Let's have a quick look-see here. I just want to see if anybody is online, is flying into DFW. No, very few airplanes are actually flying into DFW right now. There's one guy inbound from the south. Oh, actually, there's another American Airlines on a converging course. This guy over here. Aha! Here he is. Just make sure I got Unicom up. Yeah, I do. Still got Unicom up. So he's on a converging course. He's probably on the Victory arrival too. I think he's probably going to get there a little bit ahead of us, but we'll keep an eye on him because he may be a conflict with us. What a nice day it is in Texas, though, I gotta say. Clear skies, easy flying. We have not really had too many really bad stormy days since we started doing these streams, really. At the end of the day, we've had a very good run. Alright, transition set 2974, 2974 set, cross-check passing 17,000. Alright. I think he's a little bit closer to victory. I imagine he's probably in the victory arrival as well. It looks like he's a little closer to victory. We'll keep an eye on him, and if we have to, we'll bring the speed back. As it is, when does our speed come back? Shouldn't we be at 270 already? We should be. Why are we not at 270? Actually, no, sorry. 270 is at layman. Sorry, we're not. Next fix is 270, so we're going to slow down. There's a decel point in there. You can see it on the FMS. There's a decel point in about, well, 2 or 3 miles here. We're getting there. We're approaching the DFW metro area. There's some interstate down here. I do not know my Texas geography. There it is. There's the retard. There's 270 knots coming up. Alright, so slowing to 270 for layman. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to slow now to 250 because it looks like we're catching this guy. So we're going to slow early for victory. Just to see if we can slide in behind this guy. See if we can spot him in a couple minutes here. Other airplanes and an air traffic controller? Who would have thunk, right? Maybe the VATSIM skies are not so empty after all. Sometimes it feels like they are, especially during the daytime. Not everyone has this lazy life that I have. Not a lazy life, but I just get time off work during the week because I have to work weekends. But hopefully I'll get a chance to do an ATC stream this weekend. I am working this weekend, but I'm hoping that I'll be able to also do an ATC stream at the same time. Hopefully. Sunday morning though. I'm working this weekend, but I'm working the afternoon evenings, so usually I won't be getting in until quite late. So probably ATC will not work those days. So Sunday is the only day where I'm not actually heading out to work until a little later in the day. That'll be the day I'm planning on having the ATC stream. We're going to have to run the speed back even further here. 230 knots. Try and keep at least 5 miles behind him if I can, if not 10. See him out there? Oh, I see him right there. It's just a little dot. .210 is the slowest clean speed I can give him. DFW traffic, American 1331 is on the Victory 2 arrival, 5 miles back from Victory. Planning an ILS runway 18 right will apply the Victory arrival behind the traffic. Don't know if he's listening, but we gave him our attentions anyways. Because we slowed down, we're way high now at Victory. I didn't realize that it was prioritizing the speed over the altitude, so now we're way too high here. Oh, he's going to go straight into 13 right. I guess it doesn't matter that much then if we slow down. Alright. So in which case we'll just let the speed creep back up to 250. Those gusty winds out of 200, I wouldn't want to necessarily be landing 13 right, but hey, to each their own, right? Alright, we're about 5 miles in trail at this point anyway, so a little acceleration is not going to hurt him at this point. And that'll get us back on the vertical profile as well. We're 1,000 feet high, but we're going down pretty fast now to catch it. Alright, coming up to 10,000 feet. Let's get the landing lights on. Let's get the seatbelt sign on. And then approach checklist. It's really easy. Altimeters. 2974 set, cross-checked. Approach checklist complete. That was it. I do have to admire Boeing. They made some darn simple checklists. I've always been impressed with, for such a complicated airplane, they've managed to keep their checklists very simple. Because you look at the Dash 8 Q400, and there's an airplane that also has a very, I would say, a fairly similar level of complexity. Their checklists are so long in the Dash 8, ridiculously long. I guess what would also be wise would be to have that DFW ground 2165 tuned up. So I can just flip it over when we land. There we go. So now it's ready to go. That's B240. He's just doing the straight into 1-3. We, on the other hand, are going the long way around. We'll see you on the ground, buddy. Just playing with my self-loading cargo now. See what PAs I can make. A little bit of a hard time slowing down now for some reason. That's okay. We'll get her. Speed brakes are 4. And pretty much at this point in the real world, usually you get broken off and given a vector. So I'm going to get myself the self vector over here. Wow, that heading's still on runway heading from before. I didn't even notice. Alright, 3,000. Get a heading of 120 going here.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to land. Please make sure you are seated with your belt fastened and your trays in the upright position.
Speed back to about 220 should work.
Safely stored and remember to turn off
And
all
then we'll do
electronic
inbound to
devices
Johan.
landing. Thank you.
And what is this? 176? Yeah. 176. That looks good. Activate. There we go. Alright, looking good, looking good. Atlanta Center's online, Memphis Center's online, but nobody online in DFW. Fort Worth Center's not online. Alright, speed 210. We'll just shallow descent a little bit more here. Johan's 3,000 or above. You can see that green arc where we're going to level off. It's going to be just fine. Just getting a little bumpy out here, though. Just getting a little Dutch roll action going on there. There's a departure going out there somewhere. I can't see him. Might be a little far. He's only about 13 miles. Don't see him though. Alright. Let's get in a little closer. That's 4 descending 3. Just cut the corner at least a little bit. Save us a little bit of time because we would all know we could get the corner cut anyways. make an announcement just as soon as we turn final and I get myself all figured out here as well. 20-mile final, so we're good. If he's 10-mile final, he should be down low before us. Alright, there's Altiquire. Alright, let's take the heading up 150. Arm the approach. Alright, local glide path armed. Alright, let's go ahead, go flaps 1. And let's go flaps 5. Speed 190. Still below the glide slope, so we're still good. Here comes the localizer. Yep, there's localizer. DFW traffic, American 1331 is joining a 12-mile final runway, 18 right. Okay, almost there. Everyone wants me to buy viewers for some reason. Alright, so we're established on the loc. I can see the field up there. I can see all the parallel runways up ahead there. I turned the level of detail down a little bit, and I think you can notice it now. You can notice kind of the area where there's nothing being drawn right now, but I need to make that kind of sacrifice to keep the performance reasonable. Didn't notice I still had the speed brakes extended, and that's why you put your hand on them. I should have my hands on that speed brake lever. Speed back to 180. I'll fly 180 down to Nettie. It's trying to slow down, but it's really not wanting to do it here. Alright, and the glide path is alive. Ah, the endless suburbs of Dallas. If ever there's a place where you can see the American obsession with the car, it's when you fly into DFW. And the suburbs just go on for dozens of miles. Alright, let's go gear down. There's glide path. And let's go flaps 15. Lever synced up there. And glide path, go around altitude of 3,000 feet is set. There's Nettie. That's at 145 for the gusts. Oh, and the DFW ground controller's gone. Oh, for crying out loud. What, he's on for like 20 minutes? 30 minutes? That's even the point. Does not want to slow down, does she? Alright, there we go. Flaps 25. Flaps 30. Alright, and landing checklist. Engine ignition is continuous. speed brake is armed. Landing gear is down 3 green, and the flaps, oops, not 40, 30. Went just a little bit too far there. Don't have any D10, so I'm just kind of guessing with my lever there. 30, green light.
1,000.
Landing checklist is complete. Visual. Just enjoying the scenery a little bit here, but I guess I should probably focus on what we're doing here. One last self-loading cargo. Alright. Gonna disengage the autopilot. Forget to double tap it to get rid of the alarm.
500. 400. Glide slope. Glide slope.
See, and I get this glide slope warning all the time in
Glide
this aircraft. I don't know what is with it.
slope. Glide slope. Glide
According to the
slope.
according to the indications, we are pretty much bang on the slope.
Glide slope. Glide slope. Glide slope.
So I don't know why we get these unless the indications are off.
100. 50. 30. 20. 10.
Alright, reverse thrust. Alright, thrust reverse is closed. Auto brake disabled. I'm gonna take Echo 4 here.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated until the aircraft has arrived at the gate. You are reminded that
Alright,
all
not a bad
electronic
landing.
devices should remain turned off
I've done some
until you are in
kind of
the
sketchy
terminal
ones in this
building.
airplane a few
Thank you.
times, so not a bad landing. Alright, is Whiskey Lima the one that was closed? I feel like Whiskey Lima was the one that was closed, right? Hold on, let's just check here. Whiskey Lima, just scrolling back through my NOTAMs. Whiskey Mike is the one that was closed. Okay, so we can cross here. Alright, so let's go ahead and cross here. DFW traffic, American 1331 is clear of runway 18 right, crossing runway 18 left for the apron. Ramp. Alright, here we are. Not too bad, we made it. Another pilot's life like done. Pity I couldn't have anybody join me, but I guess that's just sometimes the way it works out with the schedules that I do. Now you can see it micro-stuttering a little bit here. It's not too bad though. Not as bad as I've seen it. I cut down the level of detail a little bit too, so I think that also worked. Kind of made it a little bit nicer. It is definitely having a little bit of trouble drawing everything, and also because I keep looking around because we're crossing a runway. Everything's still on right now. We're just going to get across this runway and then we'll go ahead and do the whole after landing flow. Just going to grab my sheet so I'm ready. So we're going to take the second left and up to Gate Bravo 11. Speed brake and flap stowed. DFW traffic, American 1331 is now clear of all runways and taxiways. I guess we're not clear of all taxiways, but we're clear of all runways anyways. Alright, and so after landing, flow, speed brake lever down, AP we're not starting yet. Probe heat switches, that's what I missed. Probe heat switches are supposed to go off after landing. So probes cool down. Exterior lights. Just the taxi light is on. Engine start switches are back to, oh, no. I did one, but not the other somehow. Normal. Weather radar is off, never on. Auto brake is off. Flaps are up. And that's it. That's the after landing flow. So a lot of these, like these, the setup in this airplane is really quite long and lengthy. But once you get past the setup, everything else is really quite quick. You just have to keep in mind a certain few things. The fact that the generators and the packs, you have to manually switch those on and off. Everything has to be manually switched on and off. But for the most part, it's not something that you really have to be intimidated about. It's a big airplane. It's a complicated airplane. But don't be intimidated by it. It's because it's a tons of fun when you get used to it. It took me 3 or 4 flights to really get into it when I first started flying it in the P3D world. But once I did, I found like, okay, you know, there's a lot of logic to the way it's laid out. It's a pretty smart layout overall, so I liked it. I still do. I think it's definitely one of the better airliners to fly. And you get such an immense sense of satisfaction when knowing that you can take an airplane that's as complicated as this one, let's start the APU, and be able to fly it and successfully get it to and from the gate. Like, to me, there's an incredible sense of satisfaction when you do that. Is this the last line, or is there one more line? There's one more line, so we're taking the last line in here. I find that, yes, this airplane, it's very complicated, but it's also just incredibly rewarding when you know that you can do it. When you know how to operate it, you know how the systems come together. Now she's kind of chugging down a little bit, especially as we turn and start looking the other way. She's chugging back a little bit. But tons of fun. I love this airplane. I love the fact that it operates the way it's supposed to more than anything. That is what I really look for in an airplane. I want it to operate the way it's supposed to. As much as is allowed. Oops, that's the wrong button. As much as the systems will allow. And I mean, at the end of the day, there's always going to be a limit in a flight simulator of how much realism you can have. How much can we actually allow ourselves to do? But I like to push as far as I can in the direction of let's aim high. Let's aim for the best we can do. So it should be this one right in front of us. It's either this one or maybe that one, but I think it's this one. So I'm going to say taxi light off. If this was the real world, you'd have marshalers to tell you that you're at the right gate. B12? Nope. Maybe it's not the right gate. Maybe it's this one here. Because they count up from the right. That's B1 down there. So this is B11. Boy, that was a jackrabbit start. The thing stopped at the station, and then boy, did it get going again in a hurry. I do like the animation though. Like it just adds some sense of motion, especially when it's relatively a sterile airside here, since there's not too many people flying into DFW today. Now, we have the APU generators already online. We can switch the buses over before we ever get to the gate, which just makes the shutdown process that much quicker when we get there. I think the other thing we need is we're going to need pushback helper. But let's go ahead. Let's go outside. Let's just check our... Ooh, not too bad. Pretty much on the center line. A little bit too far there. See, and this is the thing here. If I tap the brake pedals here, that brake comes off. Same as in the P3D world, which is just kind of weird. Alright, so we do have the generators are off the bus already. Kill the engines. Anti-collision light off. Let's get the APU bleed on. Oops, cross bleed can go on. Electrics, oops, probes are already off. Electric hydraulic pumps are off. Fuel pumps, everything off except for the right forward pump, which will power the APU. And that's it. Let's do a shutdown checklist. Fuel pumps are off. Probe heat is off. Hydraulic panel is set. Flaps up. Parking brake is set. Engine start levers cut off. And weather radar is off. The shutdown checklist is complete. Pushback helper calls over the jet bridge. Gotta wait for that to dock. We can put the doors on. We can open the doors. In the meantime, let's get the chocks on, because then that will allow us to call for ground services such as ground power. And it looks like the bridge is docked, so let's just make sure that the door has opened. Did the door open already? No, it did not, but my self-loading cargo thinks the door is open and it's already offloading because it just uses the jet bridge to judge when the door is open. So there we go. We can do that. We can also go back into ground services and we can request other services that we may need, such as baggage loaders and baggage trains. And there we go. And then we'll get some baggage loaders and baggage trains to show up. But there we go. Anyways, we're done. That's season 2. That's season 1. There we go. Another leg done. Next is... oh, I was wrong. It's DFW to LaGuardia first and then Miami. I thought it was the other way around. So it's up to LaGuardia, then down to Miami, and then back to DFW, Burbank, St. Louis, and then we are on to Chapter 2. But that is all we got time for today, guys. So thank you so much for watching, all of you guys that did stick with me. I know it was not the most exciting stream. Nothing happened. No ATC, and nothing really went wrong with this airplane today. But I do have service-based failures turn on. There's always a chance something could fail when I'm flying now. And I will definitely trigger random failures if I get enough people watching this channel. So we'll try to watch the next one. We'll try to bring in a night stream to Twitch here next time. Not a night stream, but like an evening stream. I may have to back the time off so we can fly during the daytime. But yeah, we'll have to think about it. We're going to do it next week anyways. I haven't picked a day, but next week sometime we will do another stream. In the meantime, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys all had fun today. I hope you learned something about the 737. She's a magnificent beast. She's a fantastic airplane to fly, and I hope you'll all give her a chance because she is totally worthwhile. It's a beautiful machine. PMDG has done a fantastic job bringing it into Microsoft Flight Simulator, and all these airliners that are coming into the sim now are just changing the way this airplane, this simulator functions, and just kicking the simulator up a notch. This simulator started to enter its golden age now, but it's only just beginning. More and more airplanes are going to keep coming to the sim, and in the meantime, I'm going to keep on flying them. So, thanks for watching, guys. Take care, stay healthy and safe out there, and we will see you guys all real soon.